Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt, and hopefully you can both hear me and see me okay, and hear and see everyone below me here. This is our new super legit Provokers overlay that we're trying out, and I'm really excited to be testing it out. So, with that said, please, in the chat, let me know if there's any audio level issues, if there's any technical issues whatsoever. Let me know. I can see it in the chat, and I will be able to fix it. This is our first time sort of really testing this out and doing it. So, yeah. And I also see that my chat window is not updated for some reason. There we go. I accidentally minimized it. Okay. So, this is Provokers, Session 8, entitled New Horizons. I'm going to do a quick recap here, and then we're going to let these guys introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right into the game. So, last time on the Provokers, these four foolhardy yet intrepid heroes journeyed into the arcane maelstrom known as the Bleak. They were in Drakfall Temple, the home base of the Order of the Unscorched, from which our buddy Sander originates. While there, they refused the offer of a elf praetor of Haldrathine named Iskandar to hand over this relic that they were carrying. And as a result, a fight broke out, and the relic responded by sending these four people into the Bleak itself. Okay, great. My computer just restarted. The other one, not this one. So while they were in the Bleak, they got separated. Sander and Kristoff were hanging out in the marshlands of Talmor, while Holly and Edric were stranded in this dungeon-esque location. Holly and Edric encountered a fragment of what appeared to be the Corruptor, sort of a shade of the Corruptor, a piece of his personality, a piece of his identity that got trapped within the Bleak at the end of the first Provokers campaign. They talked with him for a little bit and ended up using these daggers that they had received in order to sort of dispatch him and make him disappear. Meanwhile, Sander and Kristoff encountered Dice, the wizard, who was trapped inside the Bleak and had sort of created a perfect day for himself within the Bleak. He had been in there for so long that he had managed to sort of understand how the Bleak works and basically be able to bend it to his will. So, okay, really low audio, people are saying. I'm going to jack my audio up a little bit. Thank you guys for letting me know. Hopefully that helps. Cool. Yeah, thank you for letting me know. Just anytime there's an audio issue like that, just ping me in the chat and I'll fix it. So they encountered Dice the Wizard. He had created this farmland. He had his adopted daughter Holly as a child out riding her river bear, and as well as his wife inside cooking a roast. And Dice had been inside the Bleak for about 5 years, but for him it had felt more like 500 because time in the Bleak gets all weird, and it doesn't exactly correspond to time out in the real world. So Kristoff and Sander ended up joining up with Dice. He agreed to basically help them get out of the Bleak after a little bit of persuading. And meanwhile, Holly and Edric managed to find themselves in a hatchery of sorts, this massive hatchery with dragon eggs all over the place and kobolds. And a fight broke out as a portal opened and Dice, Kristoff, and Sander stepped out of it. There was this big fight inside the hatchery. They managed to escape through a portal as reinforcements arrived. And they found themselves on a balcony outside of this giant stone structure. They realized that they were actually riding on the back of this massive city-sized dragon that was carrying them through the Bleak, and there was basically this great stone fortress called the Edifice that was built on top of this dragon. Holly and her adopted father, Dice, reunited for the first time in many, many years, and the rest of the Provokers realized who Holly was, the adopted daughter of Dice the Wizard, the famous Provoker. Edric was also able to talk to Dice and geek out a little bit. Sander also was able to talk to Dice and realized that he was the one who had initially saved him. As an orphaned boy out in Sonnegeist, he was saved by this strange wandering man with a metal mask, and he realized that that was, in fact, Dice who had saved him. Kristoff also shared some words with Dice, and he bestowed a little bit of wisdom on him as well. The party journeyed into this throne room, and there was this gigantic stone throne upon which was seated this titanic, draconic creature. This just not necessarily a dragon, but almost a humanoid in shape, but with draconic features, seated upon a throne and chained to this throne. They also encountered a pale-faced goddess who seemed to command this titanic dragon in some form or another. Dice stayed behind and commenced battle with this goddess. He went into Dice Super Saiyan mode. There was ice all over the place. He floated up in the air. And as the Provokers turned this whispering door on using the relics and stepped through, they looked behind them and they saw the clawed hand of this dragon closing around Dice as he was floating up in the air. So the fate of Dice the Wizard is currently unknown to the Provokers. They came out the other side of the Whispering Gate and found themselves in the Gyre Archive back in Falhast, through that same Whispering Door from which Holly initially heard Dice's warning, the gate must stay shut. They were greeted by Cripplin Tome, the gnomish archivist, and that is where we left off. So, tonight, we are going to embark on a sort of another arc of this campaign. The Provokers have been through the Bleak and survived to tell the tale. They will be forever changed by this experience, and the whole of Aeronoth is now open to them to explore. So, before we get started here, I'm going to allow these guys to introduce themselves, introduce their characters, because this is a great jumping on point if you've never watched the Provokers before, and I want you guys to know who these characters are. So, starting from my left to right, well, I guess it's everyone's left to right now, because we're no longer in Google Hangouts. What? It's all the way it should be. We're going to start with Dice we're going to start with Holly, played by Barker. Go ahead, Barker.
Today, Dice is playing Barker, who's playing Holly Rast, who's playing...
I'm the dude
John
playing
McClane.
the dude who's playing the other dude.
Yeah. Holly is who I am playing today. By the way, my name is Barker from Absolute Tabletop and Be a Better Game Master, and I am playing Holly Rast, who is from... I'm looking at, Matt, your amazing story so far doc that people can find in the Facebook event. It's incredible. Holly is a member of the Bloodguard, or rather, might say was a member of the Bloodguard in Falhast, and she's now...
Hi, my name is Mike, and I am no part of Absolute Tabletop, but I sure am very proud to count these individuals among my friends. I am playing Edric Meadows, and he is a young man who has grown up listening to the tales of the Provokers, which have, of course, over the years have become more and more fantastic, until these individuals, these four individuals, were essentially walking gods. So naturally, the romanticism and of course the many stories, most of whom probably never happened, were ingrained into Edric's ideals as a way to live his life. And being such a young man, growing up in a farming community called Aldemir, he wanted to be an adventurer, wanted to be a provoker, a hero. So much to the chagrin of his family, he left being a farmer and became a guard. And it was during that time where he had met all the individuals in Falhast and the adventures of this crazy kid who's just figuring out that real life is not like the bards sing. So it's been quite the journey. And now we're gonna take it over to this handsome man right here. You might call him the Michigan Moby. You might call him the tall, handsomest Dutchman who ever lived. We're talking about Nate. Nate, why don't you take it away?
Well, thank you, Mike. So anyway, yeah, it's great to be playing again. My name is Nate. I have a YouTube channel. It is called WASD20, and I am playing Sander Denara, who is a halfling monk, an orphan who was, as Matt noted, found in the desert and brought, we now know by Dice, to the Order of the Unscorched, an order in the Sonageist desert that is tasked with the preservation of relics and discovering artifacts from times long past and keeping valuable items out of the hands of those who would use them unwisely. And yeah, Sander is a friendly, chipper little guy, and I'm excited to get back into this. Now, Tim, I don't know which way to look. That way.
Hey guys, what is going on? I am Tim. I am 1/4 of Absolute Tabletop, and I am 1/2 of Tabletop Terrors. And first of all, I want to thank all of you who constantly watch the live streams that I do every day from Tabletop Terrors, because I see like 3 or 4 of you in the chat, and that's awesome. So thanks for tuning in. And I also want to give a shout out before I forget to Storyforge. If you don't know who Storyforge is, you need to Google it and check out their new drip. They are amazing artists who are putting out sort of like 5e mini supplements, and you should check it out. I am playing Kristoff. I'm a half elven druid who doesn't really want to be a druid. And so I'm coming to terms with that fact. I also discovered that my brother, who was dead, was possibly murdered. And so that was a big revelation to me. And as I sort of form this new family relationship with these folks, I'm starting to become more torn with what my destiny really is. And so it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to play.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. While that was happening, while you guys were doing that, my Windows told me that OBS had disconnected, and I was like, but then it was like reconnected, and I don't know what that means. So, but no one's saying that we're disconnected in the chat, so I think we're good. I'm hoping. I think we're good. Okay, cool. All right. So, awesome. Thank you for the introductions, guys, and let's just roll right into the session. We've had enough of my yak, and let's boogie. All right. The world doesn't seem the same. It feels as though you've been gone a very, very long time. And yet, you know, looking at the sun cresting the horizon, bathing Falhast in its golden glow, you know that you left at dawn, and you returned at dawn. You've maybe been gone a minute, if that. The sky is darkening with clouds, and rain begins to fall. A rare occurrence in Falhast. Holly in particular and Sander would know this, as the rain begins to fall upon your heads as you're walking through the streets. Few are stirring. There are a handful of people milling in the streets, getting their market stalls ready, carrying goods back and forth. But the 4 of you, being led by this gnome, Cripplin Tome, this city feels alien to you now. The air feels alien to you. Your hands feel different. Your feet feel different. As you pass by bottled glass windows in taverns and inns, you see your faces and they seem unfamiliar. You have crossed into another world. And you know that though you are the same people that you were mere moments ago, you are forever changed. And you can never forget the things that you saw. It feels like a dream, and somehow it feels like you're still dreaming. Cripplin leads you down these streets, and you follow almost mindlessly. He turns a sharp left down an alleyway and leads you to a door that is sunken into the street. He opens the door and ushers you all inside, and you find yourself in a familiar place. Sige's workshop. He leads you down this long hallway, and you step inside the large sort of atrium. The leviship is there, hanging from its chains set into the wall, floating off the ground, hovering with the levistones that shackle it. It's dark in here. The lamps are not yet lit. Sable, this gigantic house cat, sleeping on a table, stirs and wakes and arches its back to stretch and walks over to Kristoff first and rubs up against his legs, purring softly. Kriplin closes the door behind him. I have a falcon I need to send. Are you four okay here? Good. Just, don't go anywhere. And he shuffles off to send this message. The four of you are left alone with the cat, Sable, and are able to speak amongst yourselves.
Seems to have taken a liking to you, Holly will say to Kristoff.
Yeah, I think I smell like cat or animals in general because of the, you know.
Holly would be kind of rubbing her wrists and looking to Edric, actually, exactly that, to see how he was doing after that immense excursion into the Bleak, or into another plane entirely.
I think I'd be sitting near Sable, and I'd just be absent-mindedly petting her, but just staring off into space. I'd kind of look like nothing, just a blank kind of 1,000-yard stare somewhere far off, as if I'm trying to look through the stone floor and into the very heart of the earth. I just keep petting her, saying nothing.
Sander is sitting on the ground with his quarterstaff just across his lap, looking down, eyes closed, trying to recenter himself.
As the four of you are sitting there, Sige emerges from a side room. Oh, good. You made it. He wanders over, sort of scratching at his head as he's rolling his wheelchair. Kriplin sent word that you were involved in some sort of journey or something? Are the four of you okay? You look white as sheets.
That that day when we were with Emery, that's his name, the older guy.
Yes.
When you looked at me and we were talking about what was in the square, the Bleak, we were wrong. It's much worse than we anticipated. We went into the Bleak, and now we're back. Impossibly, we're back. And I am really hungry.
Hungry, yes, of course. Here, and he kind of like moves over a table and like starts moving papers around, and he finds a loaf of stale bread under one of the papers, and he kind of shoves it over to you, and he wheels over to another side of the table, and he rummages in a carton and brings out a what looks like a clay sort of bottle, and he pops the cork on it and gives it a smell. mulled wine. This will help. And he kind of like pushes it across to you.
And so Christoph takes the food and he immediately breaks off pieces and starts handing it out, sort of absent-mindedly, like not thinking, but just kind of handing it out to the others before he takes a bite himself. And then he sort of realizes that and then tries to play it off. And then he takes a bite. Oh, yep. Even stale bread is better than that fake dice bread.
And Sige kind of gets this look on his face like he's just kind of sort of move on from this conversation, not really knowing what you're talking about. He wheels over. Did you find the skirrstones that I asked for? For the
And Christoph
leviship?
would look to... Oh, sorry.
For the leviship. You are back much quicker than we were anticipating. Did you find the skirrstones?
And Christoph looks over to Sander and he hands him a chunk of bread and he goes, why don't you tell him, Sandy?
Sander doesn't actively take the bread. It just kind of plops onto his lap as he's sitting on the ground there. And he kind of takes a deep breath, exhales, and then opens his eyes again and says, yes, we got them. And he kind of reaches around to his pack, says, here you go. And he hands them over to... wait, is it Cripplin who's asking, or is it...
Sige is asking. Cripplin's still off sending his message. Sige,
cool.
Sige takes the skirrstones and he's looking at them in his hand, and they're these kind of they look almost like prism shaped, like they're sort of faceted stones, but they're this airy blue color, and they look as though they have like clouds sort of swirling within them as you look. And he takes these stones in his hand. Oh, this will allow me to complete my project. Thank you. Thank you. This means I've fulfilled my promise to Durgan. Sable, here. And he wheels over to the leviship, and the cat dutifully sort of does a couple more passes on your legs, Christoph, just sort of like quickly getting as much in as she can, and then she totters over to go help Sige with whatever it is that he's needing help with. He sort of calls over to you guys as he's buried in the innards of this leviship, sort of reaching up through the bottom of it. He says, I asked for more funding for this project about a year ago. I thought that the Falhas military could use it, but they denied me again and again. I finally received an audience with, Guildmaster Rast, but he denied me as well. No funding, no money, no resources for years, and now you have made it possible. Thank you. And he begins like fitting these skirrstones into the engine of this thing.
Holly is kind of rubbing at her wrists. She feels the pins and needles where she held her hands up to feel the rain after they came back to the material plane, and for some reason they just feel like they've had the circulation cut off for too long. But the name of her father will snap her out of it, and after a moment, one who's paying attention might see her be smirking a little bit, smiling.
Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Nate?
Yeah, Sander is just, very interested and is watching very carefully. I think he feels some investment in these stones coming from his order, and is, just probably kind of standing, probably on tiptoes here and there to see, and quizzical.
So, yeah, Sige is sort of like, he's almost like kind of lifting himself up out of his chair as much as he can. And whenever he can't reach something, he sort of like does that sound. And Sable will sort of crawl up on top of his chair and sort of be helping him. This cat is definitely more than it seems, at least. It's not just a 75-pound house cat. as he's working on this, he's sort of humming to himself and muttering, and he's, getting tools from his belt and ratcheting things, screwing them in, hammering things. And Cripplin would come back down the stairs, and he's sort of mopping sweat from his brow as he comes down the stairs with his stout little legs. Okay. My apologies. I had to send several messages. It is very important that I fill in some interested parties. I sent one message to your Dragonborn friend, and the other to Emery. He would have met us here, but he is not in Falhast anymore. He left. He's journeying to Eros to seek assistance from what's left of the convocation, I think. But it was important for him to know that you were back safe. He comes over and leans back into a chair, and he takes a hunk of bread too, and he actually dips it in the wine a little bit and then is eating it. Tell me again. You came through the Whispering Door. You mentioned you were in the Bleak. Pardon me, but I have a hard time believing that. When the Whispering Doors were active, yes, they crossed through extra-dimensional space, but they were not connected to the Bleak, necessarily. How long were you there? And what did you see? What did you do?
We met Dice.
Dice, the Provoker Dice, the wizard.
Yeah, we did, and we there was lots of dragons.
Yes.
And well, I mean, we got out, but you see, well, Dicey, he protected us because there was this lady, and she was angry. She was making all sorts of magic, and
a lady. Sorry, a lady. What do you mean, a lady? A human woman?
I mean, like, not a man, a lady. I mean, she was all soft and curvy, but she was all angry, and she was throwing stuffs around, and there was big dragons, and there was like this big dragon who was just sitting in this big chair. By the gods, that really sounds silly the way even I say it.
It does sound very silly, but
But there was this big dragon, and he was sitting in a chair. Now, I don't know if it was like a dragon chair or a chair made for dragons, but he was sitting in a chair, and he was looking quite cross with everything. And then this lady comes in, not a man, a lady. She comes in, starts throwing things about all over the place, and then Dice went up and he started channeling all this magics and start throwing ice around and freezing stuffs up, and we tried to save him. We did. I mean, I did, but I couldn't. I failed him. And then we were out again.
It strikes me that it was rather like being in the afterlife. It was like... It still feels strange. It feels like I'm not quite here.
Oh, and Miss Holly and I were walking on walls and ceilings because up was down and left was right, or something like that. Isn't that right, Miss Holly? We were walking on the ceiling and we saw that fella. He was a corruptor.
After a long moment, she turns to you and, oh, yes, and kind of goes back to whatever she was doing, and probably not totally paying attention.
Everything that we understand from the Bleak comes from records that are centuries, if not millennia old. There's not much that we know definitively about it, except that it is the source of arcane magic, and that wizards are able to pull from it to a certain extent in order to weave their magics. We also know that it is where dragons come from. Every time the Bleak has bled into this world, draconic creatures have come through, whether it is dragons themselves or their legions of dragonborn and kobolds. But ever since the war for the Western Southlands, well, we are understanding it more and more every day. You four are the first to claim to have been inside the Bleak since the Bleakwrath, heroes from decades ago. No one could say for sure whether they actually were in the Bleak or whether they just survived flying through a bleak storm or something, but I believe you when you say that you were in the Bleak. My curiosity does not come from wanting to disprove you or tell you that what you saw was not really what you saw, but it comes from a need to understand. I need to be honest with you. When you came through the door, you mentioned to me that you had encountered elves of Haljathine. I've been working with them. Specifically with a praetor of New Imperia, someone called Iskandar. He approached me. This was, it was almost a decade ago. New Imperia was just a fledgling colony at that point. We hadn't seen Haljathine elves in Falhast in ever. I don't think ever. He was working on a new project, something he called a conduit. He wanted to build a device that he could use to plug up holes, quell bleak storms, and, plug them up, keep the bleak from bleeding through. It sounded like a noble cause. I offered my expertise. I allowed him to study the Whispering Door. He came into possession of the shards of the blade that the corruptor used in his war. With those and some ancient texts and studying the gate, he was able to... he was able to construct something rudimentary. But I started to get the sense that his motivations were not noble. I don't think he just intends to close these holes, plug up these rifts. I think he is trying to harness the energy somehow. Pull it further into our world. He doesn't want to stop these wounds from bleeding. He wants to control the flow of the blood. I am refusing to help him further. I'm going to be leaving Falhast because he has killed far less. And if you four have encountered him, you should leave Falhast too, as quickly as you can. And Sige, working on the ship, says, I'm working on it, I'm trying to get him ready to go here.
Well, do you want to come with us, Mr. Tome?
No, though I appreciate the offer. I have places I can go, family elsewhere. I think I'll go back to Cardoon. That is where I hail from. The other side of the mountains. It's not far. But it is not safe here in Falhast for you. And he kind of looks at you, Holly, a little sadly. This place is... People like me have allowed Haldrathine to take root here. It is the fault of men like me that they have a presence. I am sorry. He is very persuasive.
He is indeed very persuasive. And yes, we know him.
I'm not a big fan of him. He's kind of scary, but he does like cheese. There is that. I like cheese.
Well, he can't be all bad then.
Right. Well, I mean, except for the whole, he wants to control everything and kill all the folk, and there. I mean, that's kind of a really big, important part of why he's bad, right? I mean, the killing of everyone, kind of outweighs the cheese liking. I mean, I'm just gonna throw that one out there.
That does tend to tip the scales a bit, yes.
I think.
So, the four of you went toe-to-toe with a praetor of Haldrathine, journeyed through the Bleak, and you sit here to live the tale.
More like a fork to knife. We didn't fight him. We had some delectable tension at the dinner table of the Unscorched. If he had half a chance, I'm sure he would have killed us all. But I don't know if we would have even stood a chance, not even with the Unscorched.
No.
I don't. This realm better than maybe any of us. Where is a safe place to take this sphere? Where can we go?
A month ago, I would have said Zagaya Archives. But they were broken into by Casimir Strongsong. Ionstone's priceless artifacts stolen. You have proven again and again and again that the safest place for this sphere is in your pocket. You four have done more with the sphere than Iskandar has done with a mind of steel and wind and every resource at its disposal in 20 years. You four are meant to have this. I specialize in artifacts and relics, as does your friend Sander here, and he can tell you, as much as I can, that oftentimes these items of great power, of great magic, of great history, they choose their wielders. It is not anyone that can pick up an artifact like this and use it. It is yours. At least for now.
I would say that we should return to Drakfall base. I'm extremely concerned about the well-being of my brothers and sisters there, but perhaps it is too risky. Perhaps Iskandar is still there.
If what you told me is true, only a few minutes have passed from when you went into the Bleak. The sun is just now coming up. If Iskandar was there, He probably still is. But if you four were pulled into the Bleak, then who's to say that he was not as well? You say you four ended up in different places. Maybe he did as well. Maybe every single person in that temple went to a different place inside the Bleak. There's no way to know for sure.
Sandy, I'm sorry. But after everything your order did for us to get out of there, to protect the sphere, it's too risky. They wouldn't. I mean, you know them better than I do, but I just don't feel like they'd want us to go back. Because if they were harmed, it would be for nothing at this point.
I understand. And I don't know. I don't know where to go.
I mean, I'm open to it. You know, I wasn't joking when I said that you're all my family now. So I'm in. So if we're going to be stupid and go back, then we're going to be stupid and go back. But I just wanted to make sure we all knew the score before we did it.
And Crippling will kind of look at you four, and then he sort of like points at Edric. Yes, Edric.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. What if we did go back into the desert, into Sonnegeist, because, well, Mr. Christoph didn't. Well, we found that ring. You know, the one belonging to your brother, out there, and didn't that nice fella? Didn't he say there was a forest growing right in the desert on top of something where no forest should be growing in? Well, maybe we should go there. We could find out about your brother, and on the way we can also go check out the temple, make sure it's okay. That way, at least we'll be able to help two folk out.
And instead of answering, Christoph looks to Holly as though he wants to see what the answer is.
Holly is looking at Edric with this, these eyes of, honestly, pride. She looks like she's very proud of this, young guard of Aldemir who would think of other folk before his own personal, selfish matters. Who would she knows, and I believe she knows, correct, Matt, that there's a bleak storm raging near Aldemir, and that the entire place is in jeopardy. And she knows that Edric knows that, and so she sees this as no, she's not surprised at all. Actually, she looks at Edric and resigned, and nods to Kristoff as he looks to her, and she just feels the world for this person who would give up everything for some stranger in some place he's never been.
And Kristoff he can't glean all of that, but I think, I imagine Holly is having a ton of emotion in her eyes. And I can get the idea that there's some empathy happening. And so more than anything, I think I realize Edric has something going on too. Like there's something, all of us have some reason to go somewhere. And so I look at Edric and I look at Sander. Listen, my brother's dead. I'm really glad I found his ring. And I'm glad at where it ended up, but it wouldn't feel right. Right? I mean, it wouldn't feel right. Not when, Sandy just, his family and then everything that's happening where you're from, Ed, I'd let the dead stay buried, right?
But you don't know what's going on there. Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's alive.
Stop. He's I think maybe we should think about something that I don't want to do, but something that might help us. Ed, here's the thing. We're not close. We're nowhere close. Take a few days at least. But my parents, they're the archdruids of the Highlands. They are powerful, and they could maybe protect the sphere. They could maybe protect us. I know we can trust them. I know they would welcome us. It's probably the least of our worries right now, but it's been a long time since I've been home, and I know home's safe. So I'm not pushing for it, but it's an option.
Even with the leviship, it would take you many days to get to the highlands from where you hail, Kristoff. But it is true, the druids there, they are powerful, knowledgeable, and the highlands are impassable to those who don't live there. The mountains, the hills, the forests. It would not be unwise to bring it there. Now, I'm sorry to keep asking questions, but Edric, you mentioned that there is a forest in Sonnegeist?
Oh yeah, there was this nice fella. His name was Shale, and he said there was like a great big Miss Ollie, what's that word? It starts with a V. He said it was like, you know, like lots of trees and stuff.
Verdant is the word. Continue.
Right. Well, there's this big verdant forest up on top of this, you know, like a mountain, but in the desert. But it's just like one thing that just kind of stands there.
A plateau.
You know,
yep. Continue. Yes, it's called a plateau.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Gosh, you're excitable. Well, anyway, there apparently there's a great big forest that's up there, and it's like all green and nice, like it is, and no one knows why it's growing there.
That is quite impossible.
We just came here through the Bleak.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
that is a very fair point. But if there is a forest in Sonnegeist, this would be completely unheard of. Dragonfire is not just hot; it's arcane in nature. It blights the land. Even in the Western Southlands, on the Meridian, if you're traveling, you will see these long lines of black, glassy soils that are just surrounded by green, but it's where a dragon strafed. And wherever their fire touches, everything dies forever. Nothing can grow.
Well, I mean, I know I'm not like really smart or nothing, but I mean, I'm just saying, and I just kind of point somewhat behind me. If only we had a way to like see it from the sky, we could probably just fly over it and maybe just, you know, see. If only we had some way of traveling great distances up in the air that we could just, you know, have a look to see if on top of this place there was this thing, this Vendant forest growing on top of this plateau. And then we could go and see Sanders' family and make sure that they're okay.
I think if we do decide to take Christoph's advice and perhaps seek the power of his family to aid us, perhaps it would make sense, since Sonageist is on the way, to make a stop and make a distant pass by Drakfall base, just to see if it is still intact. I dare not get too close. Not this soon, after what happened.
The decision is up to you four. I trust you to make the right one. And in this particular case, I do not think that there is a right answer. I do not think that there is a right decision. I think that there is a number of paths you can go down. And not all of them will lead to victory or failure, but their paths are the same. There's a knock on the door. 1 second. Stay quiet. And he gets up and moves towards the door. In the meantime, Sige is sort of finishing up what he's doing, and he's fitting a panel to the bottom of the leviship to sort of secure the skirrstones in the engine of this thing. It's almost done. He wheels back. Now the only thing left to do is to test it.
Hop in there, man. I'll give you a push.
It is not my destiny to fly ever again. I gave a lot to the pursuit of flight. He sort of like rubs at his legs a little bit. I will be happy enough seeing others take flight in this.
How does it work? I mean, you look really pleased. So why don't you just give me the walk around?
You are very kind.
Oh, I mean, just show me show me the finer points.
Well, it's really quite simple. It's basically it looks like a wooden ship, and you use levishstones from the Wandering Isles, Eros, the same floating islands that the Convocation lives on. You lash a few of those to achieve your upward momentum and the ability to go up and down. But there's still the necessary step of banking side to side, controlling the flow of air around this thing, and that is where the skirrstones come in. And well, the prevailing theory is that that's where skirrstones come from. They're leftover batteries from the airships of Great Kazrin, and if you dig long enough in the desert out there, you can find a few of them. The skirrstones are the key to making this work. With the skirrstones, you can steer the ship. You can ride the wind like it's a wave. You can control the up and down motion, pitch, yaw. The skirrstones, each one tied to a cardinal direction, they make it work. Without it, it's just a big floating ship. But now it's a leviship.
Impressive. Really, it's pretty impressive.
I'm not going to lie, it is impressive. Kriplin comes back in, and slouched behind him is a familiar silhouette. He removes his hood, and you see Keenra standing there. He's holding in his hands a paper parcel wrapped up. It is good to see you four again. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten about me.
All right, Mr. Kaine. How are you?
Very well. Much better since you closed the Bleak storm under Falhast. He comes forward, limping slightly, and he slouches into a chair. I've been doing some research. He unwraps the parcel, and you see the rotting, decaying hand, draconic claw of Casimir Strongsong. You told me to study this while you were gone, and study it I did. This hand, though draconic in appearance, is still very much human, but it has been warped and twisted by the energies of the Bleak. Casimir, in attempting to control the Bleak storm, he absorbed too much of the unchecked arcane energy, and it twisted his form into this. He thought it is some sort of gift, but really it is a mutation, a monstrosity, really. But the more I studied this claw, and the more I got to thinking. Well, you've been gone several days. I had a lot of time to think. The more I got to thinking, maybe the Dragonborn, me, my brothers and sisters hailing from the Bleak, maybe we are not a from-scratch construct of the dragons. Maybe we are something else. Maybe we are a melding of one and another. What if the draconic beings that call the Bleak home, what if they used to be something else? What if I am descended from humans, elves, dwarves, that were trapped in the Bleak, twisted, experimented on by the dragons and their masters? What if the dragons didn't start with nothing? What if they had a foundation and they built on it? Maybe I am humanity perfected, what you are intended to be. Because I am stronger, faster, smarter, for the most part.
Well, yeah, I guess you're probably all those things, but there's four of us and there's one of you, and I think all four of us have had a particularly rough day.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what human doesn't want to be perfected with a whooping cough? The air in here is so well, it was very clean and crisp. I actually was going to ask you if you wanted to go for a jog.
Kristoff, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to refresh my memory. She looks at Keenra and says, I've forgotten who this is.
Yeah, he's he's forgettable. Maybe Bronze Eyes, is it?
We went over this. I'm not Bronze Eyes. He stands up and shuffles to the other side of the table and grabs a hunk of bread and shoves it into his maw. I understand if you don't consider me an ally at this point. I don't blame you. I'm not the most trustworthy looking face. Oh, you all received new gear, I see. That's very nice. He kind of walks over to you, Sander, and grabs your arm and looks at your bracers. Very nice. Those are enchanted. New armor. He points at you, Kristoff. Elven make. Looks like. He looks at Edric. Shield on your back. New. Giving off quite the aura, it is. Somebody went shopping in Sonageist, it looks like. What did you get, Rast? A new attitude?
She glares at him. She glares at him. And that's it. Answering the question.
Okay, so no, you did not.
You would notice. You know what? I'll give it to you. That's probably the most honest thing you've ever said. That you don't have a trustworthy face. But you know, I appreciate you doing all this. Either way, or whatever. So that's fine.
I don't work for appreciation. I work for resources, money, favors. In this case, we're even. You saved my life, okay? And I don't say that lightly. If the Bleak Storm were to have remained open in Falhast, the magical influence of it probably would have killed me. So, I'm not going to say thank you, but I am going to say, or even, the debt is repaid.
You're welcome.
Now, on to the next matter of business. I would like to charter passage on that ship out of Falhast. How much are you charging for passengers?
200 gold per hour.
You heard the captain.
No, I'm only joking.
Christoph would elbow Edric.
Holly glares at him.
Who has 200 gold an hour? I mean, come on.
I don't have time to go to the trust of Falhast to acquire such a sum.
Can we talk amongst ourselves for a moment?
Of course. No one's stopping you. I'll be here.
And so we sort of, I would step away, sort of trying to form a huddle, right? And as we sort of do that 70s show swirling camera table, it's like Christoph would simply say, hey, this is the kind of guy who you don't pay him up front. You make him owe you a favor. So maybe we give him passage for one more favor. I'm open to ideas too. I mean, Ed's the captain, and first mate Rast over there. I bet she'll have something to say.
No, wait a minute. No, I'm not the captain.
Listen, Captain.
I don't even know how this thing works.
No, you read all the. Listen, you read all the Provokers. You know the captain cleans the ship, but that is the duty that you are taking on. We understand that.
No, wait. What? Fine. All right. Fine. I'll clean the ship, but I'm not in charge. I'll put someone else in charge. And I don't, Mr. Kaine has been really nice to us, I think. Right? I mean, he helped us out and with the bleak storm, and I mean, I didn't want to say this in front of him, but he does seem a bit dodgy. I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but he does seem a little bit, not quite on the level. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I mean, I guess we could still have him. Worst case scenario, we could just, I don't know, take off with him, and just if he turns out to be mean, we'll just chuck him off, won't we? I mean, well, if he's I'm just saying, if he's if he's dangerous, right, and he tries to hurt somebody, he can. I don't know. We can see if he can fly or something. Can Dragonborn fly? Don't all dragons fly?
Sure, Skull Splitter. Yeah, we'll just chuck him right off.
Right.
I think we should really consider Christoph's idea. We give him a favor now, he owes us one later. And I know for a fact that before we take off, he can stock this whole ship with food and maybe some ale. I don't know. He might be into a deal like that.
Can he? Do you think he could get cider? I like cider. Got the bubbles and it tastes like apples.
If I might make a suggestion,
Absolutely.
It strikes me that perhaps Mr. Tome would like to leave Falhast, and it strikes me that perhaps we should arrange with our Dragonborn friends' considerable means some protection for the Gaia archives. If you could arrange this, I think that could be partial payment. The down payment, perhaps.
I like where your head's at, Sandy. That's brilliant. Yeah. What do you guys think, Ed, Rast? Sound good?
Okay, I like the sound of that.
All right. So, Sander, your idea, maybe you tell old Bronze Eyes.
Certainly. Well, and I turn back to Bronze Eyes here, and we have discussed it, and we would be willing to let you onto this ship. But since it is Mr. Tome's resources that have helped us get to this point, we feel it would be appropriate to arrange for some protection, extra protection, for the Gaia archives while we are gone. If you could see to such a thing, we would consider that a down payment on your journey, and a favor or two in the future, perhaps, to pay the rest.
So for passage on the ship here, you want hired muscle to protect the Gaia archives, and 2 favors of indeterminate nature in the future at some point.
And a salmon.
Some smoked salmon might be very nice, yes. But
Well,
if you...
no. I mean a salmon for Sable, because
Oh,
she's a cat and she likes salmon. So
okay.
also get her a salmon.
Also, a salmon for Kristoff. Apparently, yeah, I think that Sandy has got a really good point. Smoked salmon. Would
Okay,
be...
all right.
Do you have any cheese?
But like cow cheese, not
Do they
weird Sonic
feed
Ice
you?
cheese.
Why are you all so hung up on the cheese and the fish and the... Listen, okay, here. I will... How about this, Mr. Sander Nara? I will respond with an offer of my own. Yes, extra protection for the Gaia archives. Yes, 2 favors to be cashed in at some point in the future, but I have the option to deny one time. Once. In addition, I will stock the leviship with some food and basic supplies. Rations, smoked salmon, some cheese of some sort, bolts for this one's crossbow, things of that nature. Basic sundry. In return, I get off when I want. No time limit on my time on the ship. If you pull into a port and I want to leave, I leave. But there's no deadline here. What do you say?
Sander looks around to his friends and...
I promise to make myself an asset to you. I will not be dead weight.
Let's see. And Holly nods her vote of approval and walks by towards the ship.
He extends a clawed hand towards you, Sander. A deal is always shooken upon from where I'm from.
Shooken?
It's not even a word.
Sander just
I am
kinda-
older than all of you. It is a word. Shooken.
Oh, it's an old people word.
Sure.
Sander reaches out and shakes his hand. It gets engulfed in scales.
Yeah, kind of scales that are somehow like sort of moist, like just this weird sort of like balmy, clammy sort of thing. He grips your hand and shakes it. I will need 1 hour to make arrangements procure the muscle to protect the Gyre archives, supplies for the ship. Is this acceptable?
Sounds like thou have a deal, Grandpa.
Perfect. Then we set sail in an hour. I very much look forward to being confined to a tiny ship with the four of you for multiple hours at a time.
Oh, us too. Have you ever heard of the Provokers? I would very much like to talk to you all about them. Oh, I could tell you all types of stories that I've heard about them. And
no.
Oh, yes. No, it's great. It's great.
I have made a
You'll
horrible
like it.
mistake. You don't need to tell me about the Provokers. I know all about the Provokers. I almost killed them a couple of times, actually. Actually, it's funny you should mention that. They still owe me a favor from that armor I gave them. So if you run into any of them, tell them Keenra's looking for them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to send some falcons so that we can go. And I can hear about all your stories later. Actually, there is a story I want to hear, and it's about what you four got up to in the Bleak, but we can talk about that at some point later. And he shuttles off to go send some falcons to make arrangements for these supplies.
I don't like him. Not no more. I don't know, walk towards the ship.
Thanks for handling that, Sandy. Yeah, and I look at Rast and kind of look around. He's kind of growing on me.
I turn to Edric and say, "You heard that? He supplied the Provokers, you know."
He said he almost killed him. That doesn't sound very nice. Well, no, it's probably not very nice at all. I don't remember any stories about Mr. Kaine Run. His name's silly. Sounds like quinoa. I don't like quinoa. It's disgusting. Tastes like eating boiled sand. But fine. I suppose we'll just let him on and...
Nothing wrong with sand, but I've always been partial to couscous myself.
Holly's stomach growls audibly. You're muted, Matt, I think.
I sure am, but not anymore. So you guys have about an hour for Keenra to get his affairs in order. Sige sort of calls you over to the leviship, and there's this ladder, and you can all kind of climb up into it. And he sort of gives you the tour. The leviship, it's strange to stand on because it feels like solid ground, but it's also like kind of softly like bobbing up and down. And whenever you kind of take a step, you feel it sort of like displace a little bit with your weight on it. So it really is being held up by these levitating stones, and they do get affected like by steps on the deck and everything. So it takes you a little bit to get your footing. It definitely feels like you're sort of on the high seas a little bit, even though you're in the middle of this workshop. Sige sort of points out, like, you know, there's cabins below decks that you can go, drop your stuff down there. And there's a galley. There's, there's a large sort of ready room that has like a map of Aeronoth on it and stuff where you can kind of plot your courses and things like that. And there's astrolabes and compasses and a telescope in there for you. He mentions to you sort of offhandedly that he didn't think to put weapons on this thing. And he's sort of regretting that at this point, but there's not really time to right now. But he says, you know, at some point we might have to add some weapons to this. He shows you to the wheel, the helm. And the helm is sort of strange. It has, you know, a wheel on it, this big wheel with the pegs on it for turning, just like a sailing ship would. But in addition to that, it has like a set of foot pedals that can kind of be manipulated, and it looks like the foot pedals control the sort of the what's this rotation? Is this pitch or yaw? Somebody who knows flying.
That should be that should be yaw.
That's yaw. Okay.
That is yaw.
Is anyone certified in Microsoft Flight Simulator?
Actually,
okay, cool. All right, cool.
I actually think pitch is up and down. I know that, but
yeah,
yaw
pitch is up and down.
Side to side.
Oh, yaw is side to side.
Yeah,
so is this
yaw,
what's
yeah.
this then?
That's flappity flap.
Someone in the chat.
Rotation.
Someone in the chat's gonna tell me.
It's flappity flap. Trust me.
No, it's.
Okay.
I think it's actually
Josh
just
was
called.
in the Air Force. He'll say it.
Is it roll?
I think it's just called roll.
Is
I
it
think it's
roll?
actually-
Yeah, I think it
Yes.
might be roll because there's
Yes,
pitch,
roll,
yaw,
pitch,
pitch,
yaw.
yaw, roll. Yeah, okay.
Because it's like a barrel roll. Like,
Yeah,
No, 'cause
exactly.
it's a bread thing. That's
Yeah,
what it was.
that is, and
Bread
you have to hit Z or R twice in order to do it. So just yeah.
I've met Chuck Yeager.
Yeah.
and it's like combat sim. I was actually going to ask you if we could just real quick get some like Crimson Skies double shotguns on this. if we could, that
Yeah.
would be just tasty. Like,
No, it's
really
actually
clutch.
flying this thing is a lot like it's a lot like the game Raptor. It's just top down, and you can fly in any direction on a single plane, and you can pick up power ups and stuff. So.
During combat, Matt, we should get a tabletop simulator X-wing game going.
Yes,
and we'll
definitely. You guys can be
Just
K turning all over the place.
push the limit. Push the limit.
Yeah. So these pedals seem to control the things that a sailing ship wouldn't have: up and down, pitch, yaw, roll, all that jazz. There's a set of pedals down there. It seems a little complicated, and Sige sort of mentions to you that it'll probably be difficult at first, and it'll take you some time to get used to it. But with time, you may even grow proficient in it. But for now, you're not. So he gives you the tour, gives you the rundown, gives you the basics, and at about that time, Kaine returns, and there's like 3 or 4 like bulky dwarves behind him, and they all are carrying these huge barrels and crates and stuff, and they're like, "Where do you want these, Kaine?" And he says, "Put them on the deck of the ship, please." And the dwarves like look at this leviship, and they're like, kind of like notice for the first time that there's a levitating sailing ship in the middle of the room, just like slowly bobbing up and down. And the dwarves just kind of, "All right, yeah." And they like kind of load all of these crates and barrels onto this thing. And you see that there's barrels of preserved fish. There's cheese. There is bread. There's sort of like dried preserved rations, a couple casks of water, as well as ale and cider, Edric, and some kegs of wine as well. So Kaine has sort of like pulled some strings here and got you guys hooked up with stuff. In addition to that, there's plenty of rope, extra sailcloth. There's a couple like bins full of like tools, like woodworking tools and things like that. And just some other basic sort of supplies. There's a big box of bolts for you, Holly. And all of this stuff gets loaded up and put below decks into the cargo hold of this small leviship. Kaine sort of just watches, making sure the dwarves are doing their job. And on the way out, he hands each dwarf this big fat stack of gold coins. And they all sort of like count them. One of the dwarves bites down on the coin, satisfied with it. They all leave. And Kaine sort of calls up to you. "To your liking? Is this acceptable?"
Where's the salmon?
The salmon, there's a crate marked salmon somewhere. I made sure that there was salmon.
All right, you can come on. Welcome aboard.
So you are the captain. Is that what's happening here? You've been made captain?
Definitely, he is the captain.
At that moment, Holly would even ask, like, "Is there something I could do, sir?"
No, actually, yes. You can be the captain. That's what you can do. Miss Holly is now the captain.
In the middle of the sentence, she just begins walking away and saying, "Oh, over here, these ropes," and she just grabs some ropes and starts shuffling them around, and organizing them, looping them up.
I don't think she heard you.
Mr. Sanders, the new captain.
Sander walks away and is like going to check on where is that salmon?
Kaine like very slowly comes up the ladder onto the leviship. So we have like a rotating captain thing happening. Is that what's going on here?
No, it's because they're always putting me in charge of things because I don't know, maybe they think it's funny, but I guess I'm the captain now. I don't know.
I think they are poking fun at you, Edric. They think it's funny to make a 17-year-old boy the captain of a flying ship.
So would you say that we're probably like on board right now? Like we've
Yeah,
gone on-
definitely.
Okay. Mr. Kaine, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me as many questions as you want. We're going to be here a long time.
You'll regret that. I was wondering.
This is the favor. If I'm going to answer as many questions, this is one of the favors.
No, it's not. I was wondering. You remember when you said that one of the provisions in this contract of yours was was that you could get off at any time?
Yes.
Can you fly?
Can I fly?
Yes, I mean, like, I don't know. See, I've never met a dragonborn before, so I don't know. Like, do you have, wings?
No, I don't have wings, but to be honest with you, if pressed, yes, I could fly.
Oh, that's really amazing and really good. Because, I mean, it would be a shame if you were to fall off the ship, is all I'm saying. And I'll just walk away.
And Kaine kind of sits there for a second, and then he sort of goes, like, didn't know he had it in him, sort of thing. Like, impressed with you, like, talking shit. And he sort of, like, gets up and goes down below decks to find himself a cot to claim. Sige, sort of rolling around on the deck of the ship in this wheelchair. Okay, well, she's yours now. She needs a name. She looks to the four of you. What do you say?
Kristoff laughs as the cat rubs against his leg, and he says, I don't know, what about Sable?
You want to name it after the cat?
Oh, I think that's perfect, Mr. Kristoff. Yes, let's name it the Sable.
Oh, I was just goofing. I mean, I don't name ships. What I was kidding. It was the cat. You know what I mean?
Bleak
Nope.
Rider, Dauntless. You can pick anything, Edric. Sable.
Well, I don't have to name the ship.
Well, you're the captain.
I just have to clean it. Well, no, you said that I was supposed to clean it, and I'm pretty sure that a captain don't clean nothing.
It's like a fresh Telmore babe. You clean it, you feed it, you wash it, and you name it.
Fine. Then it's called the Sable. And as captain, I'm going to start cleaning. And I just walk away and go to start like cleaning, like brooming up and sweeping up and just and mind where you step, especially the places I just cleaned.
The Sable. Okay, the Sable it is. And this cat is that's rubbing up against your legs, Kristoff, is just purring super loud. And it has that look on its face, just kind of like its eyes are half closed, completely clueless to the fact that a flying ship was just named after it. Do me a favor, don't crash it. Don't let it get destroyed. Take care of it. This was a labor of love, and it was my promise to Durgan Blood Mountain that I finish this ship and give it to people who could really make a difference.
Yeah, Kristoff kind of looks around like, I mean, the guy's putting his heart out there, and we're all just sort of. Edric's cleaning, Sanders looking for salmon, Rast is teasing Edric, and so I think Kristoff would sort of he'd lean down, sort of kneeling at the edge, and he would extend a hand, and he'd say, I can't promise you we're not going to crash it, but I promise you we won't crash it on purpose.
That's good enough for me.
Did you hear what we named it?
I heard what you named it. He grips your hand and shakes it. Take care of the sable, and I'll take care of mine. And he, like, calls Sable over. She does a quick couple passes on your legs, Kristoff, and then comes running over and hops in his lap. And he sort of, like, puts his wheelchair over the side of this thing and grabs onto the rope and sort of, like, lowers himself down with the wheelchair still attached down to the floor. Him and Kriplin are standing in the workshop. They look over and they pull this lever. Chains begin winding. And the ceiling begins to sort of split apart. All this dust and debris is falling onto the deck of the ship. And sunlight begins streaming through. You're all sort of have to, like, blinded for a second as this bright sun falls through. And then rain as the rain from these storm clouds starts falling in. So you feel just sunlight and rainfall on your face, and you see like just this like picturesque like rainbow sort of in the air, in the sky from the sunlight filtering through these raindrops. And the ceiling just splits apart, splitting in half and opening all the way with enough clearance for this thing to rise up through it. And Sige calls up, "Okay, who is ever at the helm? Use the foot pedals to control whether you go up or down."
Kristoff would sort of look around like,
I think Hollywood too. Yeah, she'd probably look to Sander, who's the kind of master of artifacts. Perhaps knows a little bit more about magical things than Holly does.
Sure. So Sander, seeing no one else, like, kind of walks over there and is like, okay, trying his best to mimic what he has been shown here, and probably not doing so well. So I imagine this thing is lurching quite a bit.
So
and I think
I
was going to say, I think Kristoff would sort of lean over to Holly and say, "It's going to be really awkward if he can't reach the wheel."
Can somebody get me a crate?
So Kristoff calls to Edric, "Captain, can you help me slide this on over? Maybe one of the salmon crates."
And Sander is like getting down and pushing pedals, and then he'll like kind of like boost up, like, okay, push it again. Like,
Wasn't it built like by a gnome though? Does it not have the
no
amenities? No, it wasn't. No.
It's got a big pit in the middle. It's like an anti-short person thing.
Only talls allowed here.
Only talls.
Like, this may have been built for short people at one point, but not anymore.
It's been modified heavily. It's got rims.
So what I need from you, it's got rims. What I need from you,
It's spinning, dude. They be spinning.
Sander, is I need a dexterity check, please.
That is going to be a character sheet. I suppose I could get one of them out. All right, that's a 19.
So you fumble with the pedals a bit, but they're all labeled. They all have like arrows on them, and you see that like the up down pedals have like up and down arrows, and you see like the yaw has like, it's like a arrows pointing in either direction, and the roll is like this big like flippy sort of arrow. And so you sort of use these pedals, and you steady it as it's coming up. And in the middle of this ship in the deck, there's these sort of pipes that are running up along the side, and there's this big gigantic sort of metal grated vent in the center with this sort of blue light coming out of it. This is where the energy of the skirrstones is sort of concentrated. And as you sort of like fiddle with the pedals and start like turning the wheel, there's a rudder on the back that's sort of like going back and forth, and the sails sort of start moving to adjust. And the blue light that's coming out of the vent begins to glow. And there's sort of this sound that comes up from the lower decks of this ship. as the arcane engine within this thing powers up, and you begin rising slowly at first, just kind of very slowly inching up and up and up. The workshop is falling away beneath you. You see Sige and Sable sort of waving. Sable's sort of sitting in his lap, just watching this ship go up and up. And Kriplin is standing there, and he sort of like just gives you a nod. And as you crest the lip of the ceiling of this workshop, you lose sight of both of them. And you see the skyline of Falhast sort of emerge in front of you. And Falhast seems like such a huge city when you're in it. It's winding alleyways and crisscrossing streets, and it's so easy to get lost even if you've lived there for decades. But as you rise up into the air, Falhast looks like a speck. It looks tiny. And you can see all of Aranoth before you. You see the western Southlands to your left. You see the Throat to the north. Off to your right, you can see Sonageist just sprawling out, this black, glassy desert. Behind you, you see these mountain ranges. None of you have ever experienced anything like this. You may have climbed hills or even peaks. You may have stood at the top of towers, but you've never been this high up in the air. You've never seen the landmass of Aranoth stretch out in front of you. And you at once realize how big the world is, but also how small. And you feel the power, the magic of this leviship vibrating beneath you. And you, the four of you, the first leviship crew in over 2,000 years, set off on your first journey. And that is where we're going to take a break. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. We are going to take a quick break here and then get back into it. Everything seems to be working okay. Everyone can hear everybody. Everyone can see everybody. The overlay hasn't crapped out. So, I think I managed to not F this up. I'm really excited about that. So,
It's killer, man.
We are going to go on break here. I'm going to put on a little splash screen and some music that you guys can enjoy while we're on break, and then we will be back very shortly. And Provokers, just a reminder, do not turn off your cameras because it will make OBS poop the bed real bad. So, all right, we will be right back, guys. Please stick around. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in just a couple minutes.
All right, see you guys later.
And the mics are still hot. Just remember to mute your mic if you don't want people to hear you. Okay, here we go.
Coming in March from Fabsolute Table Knot. Our first Kickstarter since Double Aunt Twain. We're proud to present A Working Guy's Guide to Dragon Grin. Listen, in an event that some are calling even more iconic than when Steven Spielberg fist fought E.T. on the set of the classic film, the Dismember Lord has been revealed to be another cog in the Wheel of the Grin, working overtime at an airport Pizza Hut. Back this miracle in just a few short weeks. Coming soon from Fabsolute Table Knot. It's a working guy's guide to dragon. I'm getting myself so good.
Getting me so good. I haven't even gone on break. I have to pee so bad.
I know. I'm gonna go
That's so
finish my sandwich. I'm so hungry.
Okay. Okay, hello everyone. We're back. Thank you for sticking with us. We're about halfway through the session now if you're just joining us, and the Provokers just got an airship, so we're going to roll right back into it. So you're now up in the air, thousands of feet in the air. You see, just the sprawl of Falhas beneath you. You see all of Aeronoth around you. Sander, you're at the helm. Where do you steer this ship towards?
So we are heading north into the Sonageist Desert, and I am using my Outlander ability to, which is, just kind of gives me this immediate, like, oh, I know where I am when I'm looking around if I've ever seen it before, as best I can, but I've never seen things from this height. I've never seen things like this, so this is a little bewildering to me. But I'm doing my best to head what I can tell is north based on the sun, and it is daytime, right? Okay, so I'm heading, as best I can north toward the area where I guess we met Shale, thinking that perhaps from there we'd be able to find this, keeping an eye out for this verdant area.
Absolutely. So you steer the ship, and you see that sort of next to the wheel, the helm here, there is a compass set into the wooden railing next to the helm, and you're able to orient yourself and get yourself facing the direction you want. And as you do that, you you look to your left and you see another lever that you missed a little bit. And it's a lever that has like 3 different sort of notches on it, and you're not sure what that does, but you imagine as you sort of like look at the brace of pedals and you look at the helm that this can kind of control your speed through the air.
Yeah, so I imagine I just kind of gently try to accelerate.
So you push it forward, and there's this gust of wind that comes up, and the blue globe from the vent at the center of the deck sort of grows brighter as these skirrstones in the ship's innards manipulate the wind around the ship, and you see the sails on the sides just sort of flutter outwards as the wind picks up, and the ship begins sort of floating forward. And because it's sort of, dangling from these levistones up above it, it almost looks like a blimp because it has these big giant rocks sort of attached to the top of it. It sort of begins tilting forward a little bit, and you all kind of feel yourselves tilting forward as this thing picks up speed and the sails begin carrying it forward through the air, moving a lot faster than any of you have probably moved before.
And I kind of look to my right, and I don't know, who would I see standing there? Fellas.
I actually think Holly would be inspecting the chains, where the chains connect with the ship itself. What to check what the hardware looks like. Does it look pretty sturdy?
Yeah, it's like very, very secure. It's big, these big heavy iron chains connected to the deck. And you see that the chains are connected to these big iron brackets, and that the brackets themselves are part of one big piece of metal that spans the entire deck. So the stress of these stones lifting up this big giant weight is distributed across the entire deck. And you see that that's the case for all of these chains, that it's sort of almost like an iron framework that ribs this ship, that keeps it aloft, so that not all the strain is on these brackets on the ship. It's like pretty well designed. Like, it's clear that Sige took multiple years designing this thing and just perfecting it exactly the way he wanted it to be.
It's marvelous and brilliant, and you'll see that on Holly's face as she investigates just all around each side over the edges of the sable.
And Sander is just trying to catch someone's eye, and like he's kind of got this big smile on his face, like, I'm doing it, sort of look on his face.
And I would be just running around, cleaning, making sure all the everything has like been dusted off, and probably using a broom, cleaning up all the particle and debris that have fallen off during our ascension. So just trying to clean everything up and make sure everything is good. And at first, focusing so much on cleaning, I didn't even, I don't even notice how high we are. And suddenly I'll just kind of look, like just look out and just kind of stop for a second and just stare and just take in everything, just take in the entire vista. And I'd walk over and I'd probably just, like just casually like say to Sander, Mr. Sander, well done. This is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really, really is something. Oh.
You take to this pretty well.
Well, it's, all those years I spent at sea. Never been to sea. Never. Can't remember if I've ever even seen the ocean, actually. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure if we fly quick enough, then, well, it's pretty much we're probably going to see it.
Yes, in fact, I'm not sure if... No, anyway, it's a little too hazy still, but yes, perhaps.
Beneath you, you can see the black dunes of Sonageist sprawling in every direction. You see ruins here and there poking up from out of the sand. And at one point, you even see what looks like a nomadic band of people riding on drakes. They look like little ants, just kind of, walking across the dunes as you fly overhead. You even spy that sort of crumbling tower that you spent the night in at the end of your first day in Sonageist when you were attacked by the drakes. You can see it beneath you just sort of rolling away. And that really gives you a feel for how fast you're going, because it took you a full day of walking to get there on your first day in Sonageist, but you've only been up in the air for about an hour and a half and you've already passed by it. So you're really cruising. And you're not even, cranking this thing forward. You haven't hit the nosh yet. You're not at top speed. You fly for a little while longer, all of you sort of getting your bearings. You get a feel for, how the sails are fixed and how you can sort of like, manipulate the ropes to get the most out of the sails and stuff and angle them into the wind that is being generated by the skirrstones. A few times you hit a bad bank of wind and the ship kind of bucks upwards and you all have to kind of hold yourselves onto the side of the railing, but it's smooth sailing for the most part. And Sander, you take to it pretty easily with that dexterity roll of 19 from earlier. You definitely get a feel for it. You don't feel like you could maneuver this thing through the eye of a needle quite yet, but just coasting along, you can keep her even. You can keep it, keep the compass pointing where you want it to point. You fly for a while, and the clouds that you're flying through begin to get a little thicker and a little darker. At first, they were just sort of wispy white clouds, but now as you're continuing, they start to darken a bit. They go gray. You feel moisture on your face as these clouds laden with rain are sort of whipping past you. Any of you who have facial hair, like, you feel your beard get soggy with this water that is flying past you. And then there's a rumbling thunder in the distance. And you see a flash. The sails begin kind of fluttering in the wind, and you realize, Sander, that you can probably cut the throttle since you're actually in wind now, and you don't need the skirrstones to be providing it.
Yeah, I do so. I pull that thing back.
You cut the throttle, and you kind of hear the engine kind of wind down, and there's sort of this eerie silence. Just, you feel the wind whipping past you. You hear the sails fluttering. And then there's another flash of lightning. but it's red. You see this fork of blood red lightning illuminate one of these clouds. And you realize that the clouds are getting darker. And they're no longer gray. They're violet.
I'd probably just shout. Now, would everybody be on deck? I mean, obviously not Keenra. He's busy.
Yeah, he's napping
I don't
below
know,
deck.
scheming.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. You can all be on deck if you want.
I feel like Kristoff would be sort of following Edric around, like sort of crossing his arms and just, so I would be nearby. Yeah, for sure.
Looks like might have a little bleak storm. Just a little bleak storm.
You might want to get that. You want me to get that sphere handy?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Right. And Sandra kind of reaches into this leather pouch that he's got it kind of tucked under his tunic. Don't like this. I don't like being up here with this. It's not exactly cover.
But do you think you can fix this with your magic ball?
Don't call it that. And Sander pulls on Edric and says, "Here, take the wheel." Or yeah, it's a wheel, right, Matt?
It is, yeah. Big old wheel. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I kind of just pull on Edric and get him over there, and I'm gonna step to the front of the ship, I guess, holding the sphere. Just kind of, I imagine I'm kind of crouched. Here, I'll move my dude. There we go.
Perfect.
Kind of crouched up here, and
that thing on the front, by the way, is like it. You guys have seen Jaws, right? You know the big like thing on the front of the ship that they're on that has like the rope around it, and you can stand out, and you're like way out from the front of the ship. That's sort of what that thing is, so that you can stand on that if you want to. Just FYI.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to stand on that.
Yeah. Just wanted you to know. Yeah, probably a good call.
No thanks.
Yeah, that big metal.
If you
thing
do
jutting
though,
out
you
of
could call back, "Damn it, Hooper, keep her steady," while you're standing on it, which would be good.
I don't know. I'm like that bleak storms, good black eyes. Look at those eyes.
We're in the leviship. Leviship goes in the bleak storm. Sharks in the bleak storm.
Yeah, and I guess just kind of wait.
So you move to the. I'm gonna learn all the ship names eventually. What's the front of a ship called?
That would be the bow.
The bow of the ship. Or
Depending on if there's like a prominent thing that sticks out, it's also known as the prow of the ship, especially if it's a kind of a like pronounced.
And I like
that sticks out.
prow sounds better too. Prow
wait, what
sounds-
did you say, Barker?
I said
Bow.
bow.
Oh,
Bow,
bow,
like-
prow, bow and prow, bow, prow, and then there's the stern, which is the
Bow,
butt, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's the
butt
stern is
of
the rear,
ship. Yeah.
but if you say it's towards the rear, then it's afterward.
It's nice. It's also called the badonkadonk.
I'm just gonna crash the lava ship. I don't want you guys to have it anymore.
Yeah. And the middle is just called Mr. Hooper's grocery
Yeah.
store.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I didn't say this. This over here, this dope ass airship map was done by John Pintar for this campaign.
That's awesome.
He killed it. I sent him just the crappiest sketch of what I thought the leviship looked like, and he came up with that. So John Pintar is the MVP of this session. Everyone go check out John Pintar. So you move to the front of the ship, which I've already forgot the name of, the prow. You move to the prow of the ship with the sphere in hand, and Edric, you take the wheel. Now, Edric, I'm going to need a dexterity saving throw from you right now, please.
See, man, what are you doing, man? See,
Man, come on, man. What are you doing,
saving.
man? Come
you
on.
can be Quint. You can even be Quint. I will stop being Quint. You can just get off there.
There we go. Oh, you know what? That's not bad. I rolled a 16.
Very nice. There is a crack of lightning and a just rolling thunder as a blood red fork just streaks past the sable, and you, Edric, you just roll the wheel hard to starboard, and you avoid this flash as it just sort of arcs right past. You see it like singe the side of the ship as you just barely avoid having a fork of lightning go through the interior of this ship. You all sort of have to hang on as the ship banks hard. And Holly, as you're sort of like leaning against, you see there's another flash of lightning, and you see that there's something above you. There is something large sort of above the ship, sort of matching speed with you, and you see like beating wings.
And at first she thinks it's one of the massive stones, these boulders above her, because she's right next to this chain, this large chain that's is it like creaking in the winds? Is it sturdy?
Yeah, like the chains are super taut because they're holding the weight of the ship essentially, but they are sort of like swaying in the breeze a little bit as the levistone is sort of being rocked back and forth.
Gotcha. So what happens sometimes is that the levistone, because of the wind, just gets rocked in a certain direction. We feel that like as a massive clash, like just a huge bang, and she almost kind of has to hit the deck. And that's when she sees this, as she's holding onto this chain, that's when she sees this thing. And she tries to get a good look at it. Is there anything I can recognize through the bleak storm?
You can give me an Arcana or a nature check if you want.
Okay, cool. I think nature would probably be more Holly's style, but she rolled a 7. She can't see through the purple. She can't see through the lightning. She can't see through the rain. She just got knocked down. She even thinks she might be seeing things. She's not entirely sure that she saw anything.
It was like a brief flash as the lightning. You just saw a silhouette in the clouds. Sander, at the front of the ship, you can see that you're heading into sort of the center of this storm because it's getting more and more sort of roiling around you, lightning just flashing in the distance. You can't even hear because the wind is whipping at you, and you feel rain that is turning to ice, sort of like scratching at your face. And you can see the sort of the glow of these purple clouds is getting more intense the further you move into this storm. Christoph, what are you doing?
So I think having a sort of flashback, thinking way back to when we were in the square and thinking of Castamere, and I'm sort of having this moment where I believe that a different part of me would respond. And so I'm probably just kind of pouring through my druidic knowledge to see what can I do to control the weather, or try to, basically I would be prepping anything that could possibly, like preparing that chaff in case a missile goes off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
That's kind of what I'm doing, more like looking around, watching. Now, would I see this huge shape above us, or is that sort of
give me a perception check? Thing? Yeah, give me a perception.
I'm going to use the old Atcon D20 here.
Nice. Mine rolls horribly.
Yeah.
So you're going to roll a 3 or 4.
I actually traded that. Mine isn't my original D20. I traded with Chris. She was at my Harbinger table, and her dice just kept rolling, and so I just terribly. So I traded with her and gave her the one that I had that rolled really good. So I have Chris's sort of janky one.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Teaches me to be nice.
That should be your homebrew version of disadvantage. Roll that.
Yeah, just roll the Atcon D20.
So it was a nat 1 as could be.
Oh yeah. So you can't see anything. You if you're trying to like look around, you just feel like icy sleet just like hitting you in the eyes. It's just horrible.
Man down.
There is a sudden lurch from the levistone up above you, almost as if a great weight has settled upon it. You see it sort of bob downward, and the leviship sort of loses it, the chains go a little slack, and the leviship bucks downward. I need everyone to give me a dexterity saving throw to stay standing. Okay. What'd you get, Tim?
Sorry, I was just finding it on my sheet there.
Okay. So everyone manages to grab onto something and stay standing as the sable bucks. But Kristoff, you go sprawling to the deck painfully, just sort of, you're at the top of the stairs there. You go down the stairs. You go end over end and land next to the vent there in the center of the deck. And you take, 1 second. Where the hell my D4 at, girl? There it is. Okay. You take 3 bludgeoning damage from the fall.
And the hot blue wind of Mr. Hooper's grocery store beats me in this case.
And you are prone.
Oh, yikes. All right.
Almost like at the same time as this happens, shapes begin sliding down these chains.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Nah, I'm good, actually.
That's,
I'm
that's
real
three
good.
too many. That's 5 too many tokens. That's 5 too many tokens.
I'm all set, though.
Kobolds.
Who
Why did it have
invited,
to be
who
kobolds?
invited these guys?
The kobolds that you faced beneath Valhast when you were attempting to close the Bleak Storm, they were refugees here in Aeronoth. They were just doing their best to survive, wearing piecemeal armor, using exploding crossbow bolts out of desperation. These are Bleak kobolds. They are wearing rippled black steel armor, complete with helmets. They each bear a large shield, almost as big as they are, with a slot for their spear, which they're holding over the shield. And with them comes a larger kobold with black scales, wearing a small dragon skull on its head as a helmet and holding a staff. These creatures come sliding down the chains and immediately get into combat stances. Everyone please roll initiative. Kristoff rolling at disadvantage.
Oh, yep, that makes sense. All right. First roll's a 15, just narrating that so everybody can understand how sad I'm going to be. Oh, second roll's a 13. That's not so bad.
Hey, that's really not bad at all.
That's not bad at all, man. That is beating the odds. So, all right, sweet. So that's a 16 total from me.
16? Okay, cool. You are still prone, just FYI.
Yeah.
Okay, so the initiative is... Mike, what'd you get? 6. Okay, cool. The Kobold Sorcerer is going first. Then Sander with a 17, Kristoff with a 16, Holly, the rest of the Kobolds, and then Edric. So the Kobold Sorcerer gets to go first. This sorcerer, immediately as they touch down on the deck, the 2 shield bearers with them immediately step in front of this sorcerer and put their shields up, basically giving cover to this sorcerer. The sorcerer begins wringing their hands together, and there is the distinct humming whine of magic being conjured here in this bleak storm, and the kobold begins conjuring spells. I'm using D&D Beyond here, and it is so awesome. If you have a monster stat block open and they have spells, you can hover over the spell, and the spell will open in a little pop-up window.
Oh,
so you don't
so
need the
good.
stat block, but the spell pops up, and it's just like, here's what the spell does.
I love that.
I love it, man.
I'm actually using I'm using D&D Beyond. When you said, what are you doing? I was searching through the spells, like my druid stuff, and I was like, yes.
That's so awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so... Okay. Holly. Oh, never mind. I make an attack against you. Sorry. Here we go. AC is 15.
Yep.
Okay. And I have +4. Okay, yeah. This black-scaled kobold with this skull on its head, sort of spinning its hands back and forth. You see almost like a globule of green slime sort of manifesting in between its hands, and then it reels back and it hurls it at you, and this sphere of acid streaks towards you and strikes you in the chest, dealing... Let me find my D8s, baby.
Woohoo.
10, 11. 11 acid damage as this
Whoa.
sphere of acid slams into you, and you see it eating away at your armor.
Ooh.
Awesome. And she's going to fly back kind of into these stairs.
Perfect. The sorcerer is then going to sort of back up, using its movement to back up against this wall, with the kobolds sort of setting up cover in front of it with their shields. Okay. Next up is Sander.
So Sander is going to do his best to kind of leap down here. And yeah, I imagine it's just kind of a flying leap, pulling out my quarterstaff and attacking this kobold. So, see how that goes here. All right, that is going to be... So I've got my quarterstaff and my unarmed attack. It's going to be a 21 to hit and a 15 to hit.
21 and 15. Both hit.
All right, cool. All right, so I thwack him across the head with my quarterstaff, dealing 7 damage, and then as I'm like down here now, I imagine I'm going to like just swing around and give him a swift kick for another 7 damage.
So how much is that total?
14 total.
14 total. So you get some good hits on this guy, but he remains standing. His armor seems to absorb some of the blows that you're dealing to him.
Cool.
All right. Anything else on your turn, Sander? All right. Christoph, you're up.
So this is general blocking, right? I mean, like, so what I'm going to do is from the ground, I'm actually going to snap my fingers and blow into my palm. And this guy right here is the target of a gust spell.
Okay.
He needs to save, and that is a strength save versus my spell save DC, which is a 14.
Okay.
If he does not, I get to move him 5 feet, and I'm going to move him off the ship.
He fails. Move him off the ship.
So I'd like him.
You said strength, right?
Yep.
Yep, he super fails.
So he gets hit with a gust, and I imagine that one of these clouds is pulled from around us and just sort of punches him like a cartoon pie. And so it just kind of, and it's up to you if he plummets or if he's able to grasp on, however you want to do that. But his 5 feet is right there.
I'll have him make a dex save to see if he can grab onto anything as he's falling,
Sure.
But it's going to be tough.
Cool.
Ooh, he rolled an 18 on the die.
Nice.
So he manages to grab onto this metal stabilizer fin. He drops his shield and his spear out of his hand, and he grabs onto this, and you see his claws just kind of, and he manages to hang on, and he's kind of like flying off of this stabilizer fin, and he just like, and starts trying to like crawl his way up using his claws in the stabilizer fin. But he is effectively out of the fight at this point.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Nicely done. That was awesome. Anything else you want to do? You want to use your movement to stand up or anything like that?
Yeah, I was just going to say what I would probably do is use my movement to stand up.
Okay, cool.
And now I'm next to these guys, and that'll be the end of my turn.
And it's important to note that when the kobold went over the side of the ship, he went, "Ah!" Just like that. Did a good old Wilhelm. All right. Holly, you're up.
Holly gets kind of thrown back on these stairs. All of this is happening at once, but she stands up, looks to her right, and she sees this kobold dangling from the bottom of the ship. She thinks the storm's probably going to carry him away. She looks forward, she grasps her crossbow, and she's going to fire a shot directly at the kobold shield bearer next to that sorcerer. And she's going to roll a total of 19.
That is definitely a hit.
Awesome. And total, oh my god, beautiful. I'm always I always ask this question for some reason, then it doesn't stick in my mind. But I rolled the d10 and I got a 10. So I did 13 damage, right? Because my dex mod is 3.
Yep.
Awesome.
you did,
Okay, cool.
yeah. So 13 damage.
Yes, I do 13 damage to this shield guy next to the sorcerer.
Perfect. The bolt from your crossbow, you see it go exactly where you want it to. It goes over his shield at an angle and just hits him right in the shoulder. And you see him kind of stumble backwards and then shakily bring up the shield again to continue providing cover to this sorcerer.
Awesome.
Any movement?
That's I think she would move. She'd be moving towards him.
Okay,
like
cool.
Pumping rounds.
Yep. Yep. I don't know why. I always imagined for some reason. I know it's just a regular crossbow, but I always imagine it having like a lever action on the bottom of it for some reason.
It does. It does. It absolutely does. That's
Dope.
actually how it fires.
Yeah.
That's how it fires.
Very cool. Very cool. And you're doing the Terminator 2. You're on the motorcycle and you're swinging it with one hand and reloading it. All right, that was Holly. It's the kobold's turn. All right. First, we're going to do some movement. This guy moves to put himself between the sorcerer and you, Holly. And I believe... Do these guys have reach? No, but they do have range. Okay, cool. This kobold wheels back with its spear and sort of hucks it at you from over its shield, Holly. That definitely hits.
Oh man! First the caustic acid, now this.
6 piercing damage as a spear sort of lances through your side. And you see the kobold reach back and pull out another spear from it almost has like a quiver on its back you can see it has 3 spears back there, and it pulls out another one and slots it into the shield to sort of stay defensible. These 2 kobolds close in on you, Sander, and both attack you with their spears. One... God, that AC with the bracers of defense is gnarly. Okay, 1 hit, 6 piercing damage from the spear. The other kobold moves into melee range with you, Kristoff, seeing you slinging spells, and it thrusts forward with its black metal spear, totally biffing it with a 2 on the die.
Nice.
This kobold here needs to make a athletics check to try and scramble up. Ooh, he utterly fails with a 1. This kobold, you see him climbing, and then a gust of wind just gets him, and you see his nails just go, and he just flies off the stabilizer fin, and you see him just go end over end into the bleak storm, disappearing.
Yes, 1 flash of lightning as he's just this tiny
Just
little black
puff
dot.
of ash. There's a little like
It hits him, and he's a kobold skeleton.
yeah, he does the Wile E. Coyote like yeah, and he's just like you could see his little draconic skeleton in his body, and then he holds up a sign that says "Yipe," and then he falls all the way down.
I imagine it like Super Smash Brothers. He just appears in the background, smaller.
Yeah.
He uses his dash twice. I'm like,
To get back
this guy
in.
knows what I'm talking about.
This guy knows. All right, that was the kobolds. It is now Edric's turn. Edric, you were at the helm. I do want to point out, and this was something that Sige would have told you, that there is one of these pegs on the helm is capped with like a gemstone, and if you put that up at the top, it basically locks the rudder and maintains your course, so you keep flying straight. Now, you are in a storm. Bear that in mind. The ship might go off course a little bit, being haggard by the storm, but you can lock the rudder if you wanted to move away from the helm. Just FYI.
Hang on, let me roll to see if I retain that information. I did.
Good job, Edric.
I know. I just rolled a 16, and even yeah. So, but all right, I would have probably grabbed that, hold on to it, but I don't know if I'd know that I could just let go of the wheel entirely. So I'd probably holding the wheel, and I mean, this might be a little cheeky of me, but I'd like to hold the wheel with one hand, pull out my light crossbow and kind of brace it on the wheel, like kind of in between two spokes, kind of like a reverse bipod. Just aim and then fire at, try and fire at that little kobold that's trying to be a Pokemon. Little skull-headed one thing.
I was going to say, Mike, you're going to have to be more specific, but now I know exactly which one you're talking about. You're like, I'm going to aim at that Cubone right there. I'm going to take him out.
That's it.
Kill the Pokemon Go. Kill him.
These kids today with their Pokemans Go.
I heard a news story where one of them kids was doing it and walked right off a leviship, and that's the truth.
Fell into a bleak storm. He was in there for 1,000 years, but it was only like a minute out here.
He came back and was so much better.
I think with the leviship trying to remain focused and stuff, and still getting kind of like a little bit of chop in with the storm. Kind of aim. I think what's right, fire. And it definitely veers wide, probably even like ricochets off that one kobold who's protecting him right off his shield. And I think what I will do is maybe I will realize that it is fine, and I'll just start to move. I guess I could probably move to just downstairs, probably the bottom there.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but my dog is going crazy upstairs, and it sounds like my ceiling is going to cave in. Like, I know that she does this thing where she just runs back and forth in the living room. Like, she gets zoomies really bad, but if I'm down here, it always sounds like monsters up there coming down. So
Well, I'm really relieved because I thought it was my kids or something like that. And
it's definitely my dog. It's 50 pounds of pit bull up there just running back and forth while my wife is trying to watch America's Next Top Model. So that's great. Okay, in initiative order, it is now the sorcerer's turn once again. The sorcerer puts his back to this raised portion of the ship, and he holds out both hands and closes his eyes, and he begins speaking in this profane draconic language. And you see light begin to glow at on his fingertips, and 3 rays emit from his hands, arcing in different directions. One at Holly, one at Sander, and one at Kristoff. So I'm going to have to make 3 separate attacks here. Red is going to be Holly, yellow is going to be Sander, orange is going to be Kristoff. What did I say red was?
Holly.
Oh,
Holly. Red was Holly. That's the only one that hit.
Yeah, I think that was Holly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So
If you want it to be Sander, I'm down with that too. You know.
I was definitely yellow.
I was orange.
Fine.
Orange, you glad they didn't hit me?
All 3 of these colors are pretty similar. Matt, are we trusting you to judge the color correctly?
yeah.
You're in low light. What is your vision situation?
What is your vision?
So these rays of just pure arcane fire emit in a straight line. Sander, you manage to like duck out of the way. You see it just in time. Kristoff, you kind of just step at the right moment, and this thing kind of hits the deck next to you, and you see just this big scorch mark just as this fire hits the deck. Holly, you take it full in the chest. 6 fire damage.
Dude.
I'm really beating the crap out of Holly.
And this is like this is like after she's looking up from looking at her wound, the spear wound, and it's just like right in her face.
It's kind of badass though, because you're just slowly walking towards this kobold, unletting bolts into him, and it's just like corrosive ball. You're like, ugh, keep walking towards him, spear, keep walking towards him, like fireball, keep walking towards him.
The force is with me.
Yeah. All right. That
Cool.
was the sorcerer. It is now. I gotta bring up my initiative. Sander, you're up.
Yeah, let me at him.
I'm gonna get him.
We'll get him real good, lad.
All right, so I've got these 2 kobolds, and I'm gonna if I can actually aim one strike at one and another at the other.
Definitely.
So blue will be the one on my right, and orange the one on my left.
Perfect.
And the blue is a 1. Why did I do that? What I meant to say is I'm going to attack the same one twice. No. So the one on the left is going to be a 22 to hit.
Definitely.
And that's going to be... Ooh, nice. Okay, so that's a 6 plus... That is going to be 9 bludgeoning damage, as I imagine I'm flying around with an elbow to this thing's face.
Yeah, and you just hear this crack and a few like curved yellowing teeth come flying out of its mouth as you just crack into its skull with your elbow. All right. Kristoff.
Oh, can I do one more thing?
Absolutely you can.
Because it's kind of badass.
Mhm.
I'm gonna duck between the 2 kobolds here as I there we
Nice.
go.
That's awesome.
Because I can move through spaces of
You sure
others.
can, because you was a halfling. All right, Kristoff.
So do I get a flanking bonus? So what I'm gonna do is the one that's like directly next to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm essentially going to put my hand near, but not on, and then just push with this force. And a green wave of light emits a thorned whip from my palm.
Is this your first time casting Thorn Whip, neighbor?
It is my first time as a druid casting Thorn Whip.
That spell is so good.
It is so good. And so it's essentially a melee spell attack. Oh, that's tasty. That is a nat 20, Matt Click.
I think that'll hit, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do
so
her.
You take D6 piercing damage.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So immediately you take 4 damage. And if you'll allow this, especially on the nat 20,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, this spell description reads, and if the creature is large or smaller, you can pull them up to 10 feet closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to instead pull that creature 10 feet closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. I want to throw this guy off the boat too.
With a crit, I will allow you to do that. You can grab him, pull his weight back, and then you basically flip him out like you're, I don't know, like you're you're making your bed and you're just flinging the blanket up.
Yeah, so, and as a give and take, I think what I'll do is I'll go 5 feet back and be knocked on my butt. Like I'm kind of like pulling him.
Yeah.
And I just do the like drop backwards and then fling him wherever you'll like maybe on the rudder again or whatever.
I'm going to give him another dex saving throw here. He fails it. He goes right over the side. He tries to grab anything he can and then just slides right off the back. He bounces on the sail, boing, and then just goes off the back and disappears in the clouds.
Oh my God. I think as he was flying by, I saw his name inscribed on his shield, and I think it was Wilhelm. And so that'll be my turn.
Okay. All right. Well done, sir. So there are currently no kobolds have been killed by just reducing their HP, which is pretty awesome. Okay. That was Kristoff. Holly, you're up.
Holly is going to continue moving forward, pumping bolts into this kobold in front of her. She's going to kind of move evasively, a little more evasively this time around. She's been hit twice. She's in pain. She's in agony. But she does have the ability to do so with evasive footwork, as per the fighter. What are these? Maneuvers. Yeah, thank you. But she's just going to fire before moving, and she is going to hit this thing with 23, I'm guessing.
Definitely hits.
Excellent. And she's going to do 12 points of damage to this kobold in front of her, the shield bearer.
Perfect. The bolt sinks into him. This is the second bolt you've hit him with. You actually see him kind of slump forward as the bolt hits him, and then just kind of slide down to his back as he dies on the deck of the ship. You see draconic blood flowing out of his body, and his shield and spear clatter to his left and right. You see the sorcerer kind of gets a look of alarm on his face, and he backs up against the deck of the ship, sort of holding his hands out, magic sort of encircling his hands as he does so.
And Holly keeps moving forward. Like as this guy slumps backwards, she's walking over him. You know, she's stepping on him, kind of shoving him backwards.
Yeah.
Further pinning the sorcerer due to this bulkhead here. And for some reason, I thought she was able to attack twice. I'm sorry, but that's not here. But instead,
you do
she's
have
going to think.
action surge that you could use to go again.
She will.
Cool.
Because the power of the Bleak storm is affecting more than just the ship. It's affecting more than just the weather. There's something that's happened since they've journeyed out of the material plane and into the Bleak. She feels it constantly in her fingers. She feels it in her palms. She feels it in her wrists. She feels it in the crossbow as she begins to grip it tightly. It almost becomes one with her. And you see this black mass of smoky mist, as ethereal as it is digital, kind of crawling up her wrists like bracers. And the smoke is funneling itself into the crossbow as she stares this shaman, this sorcerer, in the face as it backs up into the bulkhead, hands raised, and the crossbow bolt begins glowing iron hot. And she pulls the action, and it releases a bursting arrow of obliterating embers at this creature point blank. And that was a natural 20. That was a natural 20.
How fitting that your first shot as an arcane archer would be a natural 20. That is incredible.
And it just explodes in ember everywhere. You just see these red sparks and bits of flame exploding every which way. And okay, so now we have to figure out what it does. Okay, sorry. All other creatures within 10 feet of it. This includes Holly. Okay, let's be very clear. I think this should include Holly. This is the first time she's done it too. She doesn't even know what it does. Take 2d6 force damage each. It looks fiery, but it's force damage.
That's fine. You can flavor it however you want, baby.
That's right.
I did it with magic missile.
Mm-hmm.
So for a
Right.
long time.
Firing off them icy frozen magic missiles.
Yep.
Bleak the meat.
Bleak. Oh, whew. All right. So 6 points. 6 points of force damage to anyone within 10 feet. I think it's just the two of us, you and I.
Yeah. Yep. Within 10 feet, definitely.
All right. So I will take my 6 and be at 4 hit points.
All right,
She goes, falls back and stumbles back a little bit and is not looking very good.
How much damage did the sorcerer take again?
6 points. I'm sorry. I forget that there's also crossbow bolt damage in there as well. That's a total of 10 plus the 6 points. So
16 total. Okay, great. Perfect.
Yes.
So this sorcerer looks alarmed at what you're doing. It recognizes the magic that you're conjuring because it's the same magic that it can conjure. And as the magic swirls around the tip of this crossbow bolt and you send it into this kobold, he is basically almost pinned to the deck as this thing just lances through him and then bursts into, it's essentially shrapnel. You basically fire a shrapnel shot at this guy. And it just tears through his flesh. He remains standing barely. Very cool, man. Okay, that was Holly. It is now the kobold's turn. Let me move over here. All right. Man, just 2 left, huh? All right, so this one to the right of you, Sander, is going to attack with its spear. It misses. This one charges Kristoff, provoking an opportunity attack from you, Sander. Go ahead and take that if you want.
My man.
That is a 24 to hit. Man, I'm rolling.
Yeah, you guys are
We're all
rolling
killing-
fire tonight,
Killing
man.
tonight.
I shouldn't have given you this airship.
And that is going to be that's going to be 7 bludgeoning damage
Okay.
as my quarterstaff strikes out.
So not enough to take him down, but you get a good wallop on him as he's running away. He charges you, Kristoff, and is going to attempt to knock you prone. I need an athletics or acrobatics check from you.
So I actually was prone myself. So
Oh.
he probably can just hit me because I fell onto my butt when I slung
Forgot
his
about that.
buddy.
So he actually gets advantage on the attack.
Yeah, that's more like it.
Yep.
Has Kristoff killed 2
Wow.
kobolds both while prone, 2 separate times?
Yes.
Yeah.
And throwing
Okay,
them
good.
both off the airship.
Dude's doing the John Wick like on his back. Just- yeah. So I rolled with advantage on this kobold and rolled a 4 and a 5 respectively. So he basically comes up and you do the thing where he's jabbing with his spear and you're going, roll this way, roll that way, roll this way. He's just like, just can't get you as you're rolling back and forth, avoiding this spear. And he does the thing where he like goes for your crotch and you just barely avoid, like you kind of shrug up and barely avoid him.
Yeah, dude.
Sort of spearing you in the groin.
Oh, I'm doing the Indiana Jones Captain Kirk.
Yep, you are. That other kobold missed. It is now Edric, you're up.
All right. Well, seeing this dragon skull shaped sorcerer fella that I'm not too particularly fond of, and I know he's already hurt Miss Holly a few times. Would I have enough like way to get probably, I don't know, up in Zahiran?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure if that's like 40 or 50 feet or if it was just 30 feet or
No,
20 feet.
the leviship itself is fairly small. You can move from one side of the deck to the other in about 60 feet from one end to the other.
Okay. So I'll move here and I'll just attack this little bastard. Okay. So here's what happens.
Edric has died.
Yeah. Edric got dysentery and died. No, so I grabbed grabbing the poleaxe. Like I see this little kobold and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put the hurt on him. I'm gonna split that dragon skull and him. And as I come straight down, it's so telegraphed and so obvious that the sorcerer little creature just kind of like turns its head and kind of ducks, and I just slam my poleaxe straight into like the side of the ship, sticking it in there. And I'm trying to pull it out, and it's not coming out, not without, a fair bit of like messing around with it. So as far as I'm concerned, I've sundered myself because I just rolled a natural 1. So because of course. So what I would say, if it's possible, since I lost my weapon, I do have a dagger, and I'd like to use my action surge to make another one to see at least if I can shiv the little guy.
Definitely, yeah. So you can pull the dagger and use your action surge to use it as an attack.
Oh, that's so much better. That's 20, a lot. 24. Roll natural 18.
Definitely hits.
Ah, nice. And that'll be 8 damage.
8 damage. Hang on, let me check this thing's HP. All right, go ahead and describe how you kill it, Mike. You did just enough to kill it.
So just seeing that and just trying to pull the poleaxe out, I'm just looking, and then just for a second, the creature, realizing that he was saved by just a sheer idiotic move on my part, just kind of starts to like breathe and chuckle, and you can hear this kind of this like snide, snivelly kind of laugh, and like, even I'm sure even Holly probably would be like, okay, that was kind of funny, kind of a little bit of a grin on her face, and I just kind of roll my eyes and I just grab a dagger, just like a hip dagger, grab it, kind of just flip it in my hand backwards, and just go up under the chin and actually pin the kobold to the side of the vessel, and just kind of look at Holly and say, "Can we just never talk about this again, if that's all right with you?"
And Holly thanks her lucky stars that the smile came across, because she forced it as best as she could in all the agony that she's in.
You see the knife point jut out the top of this thing's skull, cracking through the dragon bone helmet that it has on, and it was sort of reaching for you, Edric, as you were doing this, and it just kind of slumps and dies instantly as you put a knife through its brain. That was Edric. All right, the kobold sorcerer is dead. Sander, you're up. 2 kobolds remain.
All right. Yeah, so I'm bobbing and weaving a little bit here and just trying to, stay stay on the backside of this thing to try to get a good hit in. And I strike out once again, and it is not strike out, but I mean strike out is what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's going to be a 19 to hit with my quarterstaff and a 9 with my unarmed.
That first attack definitely hits.
Okay. And that is going to be 8 damage with my quarterstaff.
8 damage. All right. Go ahead and describe how you kill that guy. He goes down.
Yeah, so I imagine I hit right behind its knee to bring it down, and then I just jab right down, like through just some kind of gap in the armor, jab right down on this thing's stomach, and just I feel my quarterstaff actually pierce in.
Yeah, and it just lets out a yelp, like, oh, and dies. All right. Kristoff, the remaining kobold is standing over you with a spear slotted into its shield, just kind of stabbing forward. Your turn.
And so as he begins to, lurch back to thrust the spear, finally, tagging me, I begin to pull energies from the bleak storm itself around me. And I'm about to launch these energies into this kobold. And so as I sort of draw pieces of the crimson and this, these purple clouds into my own hands, I push my hand forward, and a wave of the bleak itself shoots directly toward this kobold and goes around it as though I don't have any control over it at all. And this bleak energy actually flies toward Holly, and she gets the bleak hits her, and immediately, like a healing balm, begins to soak into her wounds, and the very bleak itself begins to stitch up the wounds, and she gains 4 hit points plus 1 temporary hit point because the bleak has changed Kristoff. No longer driven to change shape and form as readily. He is actually healing her with the power of the bleak. And that is reskinned Circle of Dreams Druid.
Awesome. So yes, as you people have probably noticed, we had a couple of subclass changes since the last session because Xanathar's Guide is dope on a rope. It's really good.
Yep. And we thought it'd be a super cool opportunity because we were in the bleak. It made a lot of real cool thematic sense to
rewriting your entire being, basically.
Right.
And the kobold is startled at this energy coming towards it, and then as it kind of like goes around it and misses it, it kind of gets this sneer on its face, like, "Ha, you missed me at point blank range, like you suck, dude."
Right. And Kristoff is just as surprised as the kobold, I think. It's like the bleak energy knew where to go, even though Kristoff didn't know.
Exactly. Do you want to spend any movement standing up?
You know what? Yeah.
I
will
asked
go ahead
because I'm about to
and-
roll with advantage with this guy. So
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. So I think what I would probably do is, as the kobold is probably sneering and I'm sort of surprised, I would just hop up. And that'll be the end of my turn.
Okay. Ugh, I just realized these kobold dragon shields make 2 attacks. Damn it. Could have been really really pushing you here. So
You
this
really killed Holly, not
Yeah.
just gotten really close.
So okay. The kobold in front of you, Kristoff, makes 2 attacks with its spear. The first one, you sort of dodge out of the way. The second one, it readjusts. It kind of spins the spear, reorients its shield, and jabs forward. And you feel it connect, but you feel the elven chain that you're wearing turn the blade aside, and it just skids across the lengths of the chainmail. So it hurts a little bit. You can feel the pressure of this attack, but you feel the blade just turn aside with that elven chainmail that you're wearing.
That's so good.
Sander, you're up. No, Edric, you're up.
Really? Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, wait. I skipped Holly. Holly, you're up. Good lord.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I thought. I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
You didn't skip me too bad. I'm right after Kristoff anyway.
Yep.
Holly looks like, you know how a fog will sit on the water in the morning, make that fog, that mist, into like a dark, shadowy mist, and it's like hugging her, no matter her movements as she's kind of crawling out of the fight, and it's being seeped in specifically to areas charred by caustic acid or bloodied by sharpened spear, and everywhere where she was wounded is just a little bit better. And it's interesting because the very Bleak that is healing her is it feels different this time around. She remembers feeling it when they went into the Bleak, and this time it feels more comforting, and she didn't realize that was possible. She attempts to get to her feet, but she fails at moving to help her friend, and she's gonna kind of stumble about right there.
Perfect. Now it is Edric's turn.
Well, I guess I'm gonna try and make a strength check to get my poleaxe out. I'll take that. That was a nat 20.
You wrench it free. It
Where
is in your
were
hands.
Wrench it free. It actually slips out of my hand, sails backward, and cuts the kobold in half.
It's a
Ta-da!
critical hit, so everybody saw it.
Yeah.
Everyone
Everyone's
saw it.
super impressed.
Yeah. Ooh. Dug that right out of that wood. So yeah, I guess that's probably an action. So
With a 20, you
Yeah.
can move and use it, man.
All right. So I imagine seeing the kobold kind of looming over. I'll actually kind of I'll run, grab it, and then using my foot, I kind of leap off, just using my weight, strength, and inertia to pull the poleaxe out, and that gives me enough pull to just go into a run and kind of pop here. And I'll fucking raise, I'll smack him.
Do it, man.
You're gonna die, you pint-sized lizard bastard. Does a 14 hit?
14 total
Yeah.
does not hit.
It's the worst question ever from the DM.
Yeah. Total?
Total? Can you add anything with that?
Always say no. I meant higher than what I just told you.
No, I meant 20. That's why I said 14. Duh.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, you come up behind it, and this kobold turns and brings up its shield just in time, and you feel your poleaxe just bounce off of this black rippled metal, and the kobold just turns your poleaxe aside and reorients itself with its spear up like this. Sander, you are up.
I am going to move over to the lone remaining kobold.
The lone kobold.
I'm going to use all my special abilities. No. Okay, yeah, so
to be.
I kind of bolt, and I imagine I actually kind of use the edge of the ship wall here. Ship parts I don't know either. Kind of give myself some leverage, and I'm just going to fly at this guy. And I rolled one natural 20 with my quarterstaff, and the other one is a 14, so probably not it.
Yeah, 14, no, not so much.
Okay, but the other is a natural 20. So we'll roll that. And it's a 1, so then I double that, right?
1, add your modifiers and double it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is going to be 8 bludgeoning damage with my quarterstaff.
Which is
launch myself.
enough to take this guy out. Go ahead and describe it.
Yeah, so I imagine I just come from, where it's not looking.
Yeah.
Fly out of nowhere, and I just thwack this thing across the back of the skull and hear this juicy crunch.
And as the final kobold hits the deck, just piles of dead kobolds, you feel something up above, like, jump off the levistone. And you see this massive winged shape just kick off the levistone and disappear into the bleak storm.
Thank goodness.
The ship is flying into the midst of the bleak storm. You can feel it just buffeting in the wind. One of the port side sails just tears. You just hear it go and just tear as the wind just fills it with too much ferocity. The ship immediately starts banking to port side and sort of going into a downward spin. You all, your stomachs lurch as it begins doing this, and you see just clouds rushing up as the airship starts doing this sort of spiral downwards. Somebody's got to grab the rudder.
I
And
think
it's
I'm
not going to be me.
closest, right?
Let's all not jump out at once.
Well, I think I'm the closest, right? It's
You are the
right
closest. Yep, you are the closest.
Yep.
So I would just skitter out of instinct, I think. Deep boop boop. Boop deep beep boop. Bapa deep beep boop.
And I'm going to need a strength or athletics if you're proficient in it.
I don't think I am. Let me just... Nope. Not today, Jengus. So it's a flat 14 unmodified.
14 unmodified?
Yeah.
So
if it's strength.
Yeah, you grab the wheel as it's sort of spinning. You grab it, and it just sort of wrenches you to the floor. You take 1 bludgeoning damage from just the jarring pain of reaching into this wheel that is just spinning at high speeds.
Ugh, does it knock me in the head like Steamboat Willie? Like...
Yeah, yeah, and you get a concussion because that would just destroy you.
Yeah, right.
So you guys see Kristoff run up, grab the helm, and just get tossed around like a dinosaur lasagna up here. And the ship begins leaning even deeper to port.
Might be.
Kaine sort of appears in the doorway leading down to the cabins, and he's sort of holding on to the doorway. And he's just like, what the hell is going on up here?
Bleak storm! And I'll run up to assist Kristoff in trying to secure the wheel.
Athletics.
Oh, well, athletics, all right. Nice. That'll be an 18.
You grab the wheel, Edric, and for a second, you sort of feel every muscle in your back, every muscle in your arms get wrenched to the left as you're grabbing onto this wheel, but you manage to hold on to it, and you spin it slowly, stabilizing the rudder. You work the pedals a little bit, and you feel the ship beginning to right itself in this storm. Sander, you're standing there. You feel a familiar vibration in your pocket. The sphere is reacting to the bleak storm as it has in the past. You are in the heart of this bleak storm. There's blood red lightning lancing past the ship as it rights itself, and you see just this. It almost looks like a wound cut into the sky, just this jagged, ragged arc with lightning and purple clouds just leaking out of it.
I pull the orb out, the sphere out, and I just I'm looking at it. Does it look any different?
It's doing that thing that it did before when you were closing the bleak storm under Falhas. The pieces of it are sort of spinning and locking themselves in place, and the runes on it are glowing that same purple color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just kind of hold it out toward this tear.
Give me a charisma check.
Oh man, I'm rolling so good tonight. I swear I'm not cheating, guys. All right. Charisma.
I'm not cheating.
Standard to cheater.
Okay, so that's going to be a 19.
A 19. You hold the sphere aloft, and again, as before, the lightning arcs towards it. You feel a power coursing through you. You feel every fiber of your being tingling with the presence of this arcane energy, but you stand strong against it, and you don't know how to do this, Sander, but again, you channel something into this sphere, and you see this scar, this wound, stitching itself closed. And as it does so, the lightning dissipates, and the clouds, these swirling violet clouds, immediately stop moving and dissipate into just sort of white, fluffy clouds. There's a single sort of crack of lightning, and then it is silent. The ship rights itself again, sort of lazily falling into its pattern, and the sky is blue ahead of you. You have closed your second bleak storm. That's the music that plays when you do.
See, and because I'm old, I remember that in its 8-bit goodness playing Final Fantasy on the NES.
Yeah.
Many moons ago.
Oh, yeah.
So I imagine Sander kind of falls to his knees, and I just kind of sit there, and I'm back in my meditative position. This time, there's no bread in my lap. There's the sphere, the orb.
The Sable has taken some damage. The port side front sail is torn and will need to be replaced. The starboard side stabilizing rudder is like torn to pieces because a kobold was climbing up it with its claws. And there are a few like fist-sized charred holes in the deck of the ship from where the sorcerer's spells found purchase in the wood. But beyond that, the Sable is flying. You've kept it aloft. You've survived a combat in the sky and managed to preserve the leviship that was granted to you.
And lest we forget the large pole arm wound in the ship.
That too, yeah.
In that starboard side.
And I'm counting victories and Wilhelm screams at this point.
Kaine on the deck, sort of looking around, and he sees the dead kobolds. He sort of kicks one with his clawed foot, kicks it over and sees its face. He pulls the helmet off of its head. These are bleak kobolds. They did not come from Aranoth. They came from out of the storm. Why would you fly into a bleak storm? Did you see it?
Well, it kind of just was there. Like first it was not, and then it was there.
It just appeared.
Well, maybe if you were up on deck watching out for it, instead of being in your bunk doing whatever it is you were doing, maybe we would have seen it.
I was making sure there was enough salmon on board for you. And he sort of like pushes a fish into your chest. This salmon just pushes it into your chest. He says, if the bleak storms are appearing... Okay, hang on. You four have been out of the bleak for, give or take, 18 hours at this point. She's had almost 2 centuries to figure this out. They're using the bleak storms as drop points for raiding parties. If you four are able to be located from inside the bleak, it means you are carrying some of that with you. This is even worse than I feared. I will have to work out some sort of way for us to mask your location. It was kobolds this time. Next time it might be a full contingent of dragonborn, a dragon itself, wyverns, something like that. This is most troubling.
So, what are you saying here? Are we like lightning rods for the bleak?
That is my theory. If a bleak storm opened at your location and kobolds immediately attacked you, then they knew you were here. That's obvious. They attacked with intent. I'm not sure how, but she may be able to find you out here even while she is in there. The powers of a goddess are considerable, even while imprisoned inside the bleak. We should tread lightly from this point forward, and in the meantime I will try and think up something to be able to mask our presence. And if I can't figure that out, then I'm getting off at the next port, because I don't want to be with you four if you're bleak magnets. Alternatively, it might not be you four. It might be that. And he points to the sphere that is now dormant again, but smoldering in your hand, Sander. Which means wherever that goes, the bleak follows.
Well, it seems to be able to handle it, but I'm not sure we can. And I go over to Holly and, are you okay? Looked like you were getting near the point of falling.
She's by this point, she's kind of strapped herself with bandages around, her whole body and different areas around her arm, waist, and she looks up from her hand, which is kind of blackened along, the metacarpals and along the finger lines and whatnot on her palm and on the other side, and she just kind of staring at it. And she looks up to you and she says that she's fine. She says, I'm fine. Very, instantly. And she goes to stand up and does so perfectly. I don't know what to say about my rolls today, too. She does it like there's nothing wrong with her. Like she could get in another fist fight right now. Though you know to be a better judge yourself that might not be the case.
I think now that the now that everything's kind of calmed down a little bit, I'll probably walk over to Holly, and I'll kind of pull my bag off, kind of rummage around in my bag a bit. Oh, here, this is for you, and I'm going to hand her a heal potion, one that I have not used.
She'll take it with the estranged hand, and she'll take it and she'll drink it up. What does that give me, Mike?
It's 2d4 plus 4.
You want to do the honors?
Nah, you go for it. I've been rolling like utter crap.
You've been the exception to our rule today. Oh.
Pretty much, yeah. I would probably roll, and you'd actually lose hit points. Then you'd be like, that doesn't even seem physically possible. I'd be like, well, you know.
And we've been rolling so well that I actually rolled a d4, Barker, and I got a nat 20 on it.
Oh, wow. Those are rare. 60% of the time, it works every time. So thank you for that 9 points of health back there, Edric. She drinks it up and kind of gags a little bit, covers her mouth. The taste is disgusting. She forces it down, plugs her nose, and after a moment, she feels the just tingling sensation as these wounds begin to close up, and as tendons and cartilage refuses together, and as flesh naturally restitches itself closed. It's a little bit painful at first, but she's been used to it.
So awesome.
Who's at the helm currently? Is that still you, Edric?
Well, I would have walked away from it, or to go down and see Holly. So, I mean, I would have left. I probably would have left Christoph there.
And I think Christoph would be rubbing his head, sort of standing up and not really touching the wheel at this point, but probably just sort of gazing off, letting it all sink in. So I'd be near the helm, but I don't think I'd be actively steering it.
As you're sort of just hanging onto this helm, Christoph, you see in the distance, you kind of break through these clouds, and you see again that you're still over Sonegeist. Your course did not deviate that much. And you see on the horizon, just to the sort of the southwest of where you are, you see nothing but black dunes and black hillsides and charred, crumbling ruins. And then there's this gleam of emerald. And it almost looks like a mirage through the heat shimmer of Sonegeist, but you draw closer to it. Maybe you even course correct a little bit to sort of head in that direction. And you see this high plateau with these steep, craggy sides. And there are blue and white waterfalls cascading over the sides of this plateau. And you see that they're like frosting on a cake dripping over the side. There is a verdant jungle atop this plateau. You see vines, trees, shrubs just hanging over the sides of this plateau. There are birds wheeling in the sky overhead over this plateau. It seems impossible that this is here. It's like dead center in the middle of Sonegeist, this dragon-blasted desert that will be a dragon-blasted desert for all time. But there is a jungle growing in the middle of it. More lush and more green than anything you've ever seen before.
And I think in awe, I would sort of just reel out, almost as if I'm behind my own mind, sort of looking. And I think the weight of how unrealistic all of this is sort of sets in deep. And that surreal feeling of like, Like, I'm looking out over the blasted desert, burnt from afar up high. And now I'm seeing essentially what is an oasis. And it's messing with my mind.
I think Holly would be in that same sort of awestruck state, just staring at it, staring at the view in the distance, slowly getting closer and closer.
And I would notice everyone and just kind of staring off. And, like when you see a bunch of people looking in one direction, it's like, well, I'll sheeple this. And looking over and just like wide-eyed wonder, and just have this huge smile on my face, like, and I would probably grab Sanders' head and just kind of twist it around towards this I don't know, Sonegeist Park. So I just would just kind of point. Look there. I bet you'd never think to see that, Mr. Sander. Beautiful oasis like that in a place like this.
Right. I've seen this place, but I haven't seen this place. This is familiar and yet wonderfully strange. Never seen anything like it.
Do you think we'll find your brother there, Mr. Kristoff?
And without thinking of it, a subconscious part of Kristoff answers as a reflex, and still aloof, gazing toward this, only semi-aware of the conversation. There's a part of his soul that answers before his mind can intercept the message. And he says, yeah, maybe.
And I guess then, since no one else is at the helm, I'll kind of zip over and I will steer it towards there. If we're not already headed there already.
Yeah, you auger her in, and you even sort of like set it on a slight descent so that you can sort of move closer to its level. Kaine is sort of leaning against the rail near the prow of the ship. It's a word I learned today. And he's sort of gazing at this oasis with one good eye. And he just has this curious look on his face, and for once he has nothing to say. He is staring out at what should be impossible. And he knows better than just about anyone the devastation that the Great Scorching had and the creation of this desert. And he is seeing it being rewritten. He just leans against this railing and stares out at this oasis. The Sable begins its descent. Kaine moves to the center of the deck. One of the port side sails needs replacing. I don't mind taking care of that. You four have business on the plateau?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of us. Well, yeah. No, all of us, right? Is that? Does somebody help me out here?
We wanted to check things out, I believe. It's a remarkable place. And it might have something to do with the changes we've been experiencing.
I'm not sure if it's comforting or disturbing seeing such a lush jungle in the middle of Sonnegeist. There are oases here and there, small copse of shrubs and trees, areas that were spared the devastation of the Great Scorching, but this is something else. This has grown despite the devastation. And quickly, Sander, you know this desert. Have you seen this plateau recently?
No, and certainly some member of my order would have reported this if it had been here. We have heard nothing.
I do not know what you will find on that plateau, and I do not envy your journey. But I will watch the ship, repair the sail, and don't worry, I won't leave you here. I don't know how to fly this thing if I tried.
That's actually really funny because I wasn't thinking that until you just said that.
At least one of you was thinking that.
I was.
This one is honest.
And I would kind of say this maybe to Christoph. Is there any way we can disable it for the time being?
Yeah, I mean, short of taking out those fancy rocks, I don't think so. Right? I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, I guess we could take the wheel. And Christoph actually inspects the wheel, like looking to see if it's a classic sort of lug nut scenario. Like
there's
You
a
take one of those bars that are
the,
called
the wheel lock or whatever. Where you just
wheel
put-
Oh,
lock.
yeah.
You just-
I do a wheel.
You put a club on the tires.
Dude, the movie Rocket Man, where he bounces his tire into work every day.
Yeah.
Hey, remember to put the sun blocker in the windshield before we go on the plateau.
Yeah, it'll get real hot.
This deck, ooh, hot mahogany, baby.
But yeah, if you wanted to pull out a skirrstone or two, you probably could figure out how, and that would certainly hobble the ship if you wanted to.
That seems like the kind of thing that you'd be fumbling with whilst escaping. Like, it's the classic dropping your keys.
Come on.
I'm pushing skirrstones in, Sander's shaking my neck.
There's a Tarrasque just coming out of the jungle at you.
Kaine was like, I told you.
We're gonna have to push start it.
Everyone to the front. Now jump.
Yeah, I think
I
King Rush
wouldn't
would be
mess with
running
that.
for us.
Yeah, I was gonna say I personally, Christoph would not mess with those skirrstones. No way.
Yeah, just leave the engine on.
And seeing you two sort of discuss this quietly, Keenra says, listen, I may be a shrewd dragonborn asshole, but I never break a promise, and I don't go back on a deal. We have an agreement. I owe you 2 favors in exchange for passage on the ship. So I'm not going anywhere. Not yet, anyway.
And I think Christoph sort of like in a more somber, like a sober moment, realizing that Keener is kind of on the level, he would, well, yeah, I think you're right about only half of that. No, you're right about both. You're right. All right, thanks.
So are you going to stay on the ship, Mr. Kaine, or you want to come with?
Not much good in a fight. And I say that because you're going to find a fight on that plateau.
Well, you don't know that. It could be a big table out with tea and biscuits.
I have 40 gold in my pocket, and I will bet you all of it that you will fight something on that plateau.
Look, I mean, I don't want to say nothing about nothing, Mr. Kaine, but no metagaming for fuck's sake.
Listen,
I
I'm
was gonna make
a
a joke, and then I was
construct
like-
of the god that rules this place, and I'm telling you, you're going to fight something on that plateau.
I was gonna say, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a joke here, but Mike's actually having a roleplay moment, and nope. Trust me, buddy. I know the DM. You're gonna fight like at least 3 things. And all of a
Possibly
sudden,
have a puzzle
Keenra. And all of a sudden, Keenra is the insult comic.
He's triumph the insult comic dog.
I'm like,
But anyway.
which one of these skirrstones called your mother to pick you up?
Oh God, we're just joking on the comedy here. Yeah, all right, Mr. Kaine, if you wish to stay here, there's plenty of food and salmon.
I saw to
Should you
that.
be hungry?
Yep.
Yes, should you be hungry? Just don't drink all the cider. I like cider.
I don't care for it myself. You can have all of it.
Oh, lovely. We have some when we get back.
So you descend down to the edge of this plateau, and you get to its level, and you see that these trees are just massive. They look like trees that have been growing for decades, not for months. The forest is just dense. You sort of come up over the forest, and Keenra's sort of at the prow of the ship looking down, and he's sort of looking for like clearings, and there's just none. There's just no place to set the ship down. He calls back, I think we're going to have to anchor off in a tree. You're going to have to climb down. I don't see any place to land.
Well, if we must.
You drop the ship just to the top of the tree line. You actually feel the branches kind of brushing up against the bottom of the ship, and you drop the throttle down, and the sails go slack, and the ship just kind of coasts to a stop. And you see that there is plenty of ropes that you could tie off to a tree if you wanted to make sure that the ship isn't going to float off anywhere. Keenra sort of moves to the center of the deck.
So,
Before you go, he sort of reaches in. I have 2 of these. He hands one out, sort of to anyone who wants to take it. It is a rock, kind of about this size, but it is kind of shaped. It sort of has this weird kind of spiral pattern on it that almost looks like an ear. He sort of hands it to one of you.
Did he just give us a Hearthstone?
No, he just gave us a Bluetooth.
He just gave us a Hearthstone. I'm like, hold on, guys. I can get us back.
so I would take one. What is this?
They're listening stones. They work out to 5-6 miles. If you speak into the stone, I'll be able to hear it. And vice versa. Don't abuse the power. I don't want to be chit-chatting the whole time you're gone. But if you need a quick getaway, I can probably help.
I look at Edric and I say, "You hear that? No storytelling."
All right, that's fine. I'm not going to say nothing. Besides, we're going to be too busy fighting something, apparently. So, might as well get going, get to this fight, and then we can save Mr. Kristoff's brother, and we can be heroes, and you two can be reunited. That'd be nice. And you could tell him what he wrote in that book, so you don't have to keep racking your brains out every night, going, what is in this book? So you just got to tell him, and then he'll tell you because he's your brother, and he'll do stuff for you, and you'll do stuff for him because you're brothers. That's how it works. I mean,
yeah. I'll tell you what. If my brother is here, you keep talking like that, he might kick your ass.
Well, when my sister asked for stuff, I'd always help her.
You know what? I thought the same thing about your sister. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't know you met my sister. You know, she's turning 12 this year. Just really proud of her.
Come on, Ed. Let's go find my brother and get into a fight. And I would look over at Rast like, can you believe this?
The look on Rast's face says she's staying on the ship. She wants to look after this guy, Keenra. She thinks it's smart. She thinks she'll be able to heal up. And she's kind of looking at you, and she kind of motions towards the bandages on her and just kind of nods. You've been in a lot of silent conversations with her and with a lot of people. Like, you know what's up.
Okay. Your call.
So, Holly, you're going to stay on the ship?
She definitely takes a step towards the helm and walks up the stairs and just kind of sits on that chest over here, and just kind of tending to her wounds and keeping an eye on Keenra.
And Edric, Sander, and Kristoff, do you descend the ladder and into the canopy of these trees?
Oh, hell yeah. Let's do this.
Yeah, dude.
You know, like
right
out of the chopper, like Huey style, with Little Richard playing in the background.
Right?
And then, like, what you see, Mr. Kristoff?
And I'm like,
it's like 2 men walk through there.
I say,
U.S. jungle pattern boots.
If you take some of this into Green Reserve, it'll make you a Bleakwrath Tyrannosaurus. Literally, like there's dinosaurs in here. No, I absolutely wouldn't. I think before we kind of like climb in the trees, Keenrod looks at Rast and is like, "No, seriously, it's gonna be like a CR5 fight. You might want to go with your friends." No, but yeah, I do climb through the
Oh, go ahead, Sander.
Sander would definitely say to Holly, just be listening. Keep that crossbow handy for us.
Did Holly get one of those stones? She would have if there were enough. I know that
Keenra had 2. He handed one to Sander, and he's got the other one.
Awesome. I see. Okay, so she nods.
The 3 of you tie off the sable, get it secured to the top of this tree so it's not going to float off. It just kind of is slowly bobbing there. And as you're descending the trees, you can see Keenra sort of like unfurling the torn sail on that port side sail, and he's starting to replace it, doing the repairs. The 3 of you descend this tree, and it's a long climb, but you manage to get down. It's dense enough with enough branches where there's not really a fear of falling. It's so dense that even if you slipped, you would just land on a branch down below. So you manage to climb down, and after 10-ish, 15 minutes of climbing, you manage to get down to the floor of this jungle, and it's like another world. The blue sky is completely shrouded by this green canopy, and the sunlight filtering through the leaves gives everything this strange green sort of gold aura. Leaves are just falling, and underneath you see moist, rich, dark soil. And if you reach down and take some in your hand, you just see that it is incredibly fertile soil, not like the black glassy sand that makes up Sonnegeist. The trees stretch on for miles as far as you can tell. You'll have to use blades to hack through this stuff to even pathfind your way to where you need to go. And as you're sort of getting your bearings, Kristoff, you catch something out of the corner of your eye. And you look, and there's a small cyclone of leaves sort of getting caught on the wind. Leaves and twigs and little bits of shrubs. They swirl into a column, and then they make this shape. A very familiar shape. Kristoff, you see your brother for an instant, silhouetted in leaves. And he points to you, and then kind of does this. And then the leaves dissipate and fall to the ground. And it happens so quickly that you're not even sure if what you saw is what you saw.
And I would look around to see if Edric or Sander even gleaned, the periphery of that. Like, I'm sort of looking to see, like, did I just see that?
And Sander and Edric, you both see that Kristoff is kind of staring off through the trees, seemingly at nothing. You didn't see anything.
All right, Mr. Kristoff.
We can continue.
Yeah. No,
Lead the way.
yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. I was just stopping for a sec. Yeah, that's fine. And I would look around, and then I would slowly proceed in the direction of that murderous will-o-wisp of leaves.
The three of you walk into the dense foliage of the jungle, the airship disappearing behind you. The jungle greets you, and you know you have a long walk ahead of you. And that is where we will end our session for tonight. I forgot to do my usual cliffhanger. That'll have to do for now.
That's like it had to do with Holly, and this douche decided to stay on the ship. So, well, I guess
No. Holly, you see Iskandar, and he's Superman flying towards you. He's just like...
He's like, these Minox start latching themselves on the ship.
Oh, man.
That was amazing.
God.
Did you guys have fun?
I did have fun. Airship fight? Like, come on, dude. Classic airship fight.
Dude, that's a
We did it.
bucket list for me for Provokers, man.
God, we did it.
Edric broke it in. We don't have to worry about scratching the Ferrari anymore.
Yep, exactly. Edric put a poleaxe through the hood of the car.
Dad's gonna kill us, dude. He's gonna kill us.
You just loaded me out this leviship, dude.
This leviship.
For like 2 days.
I told you not to drink. I told you not to drink.
Guys, I got my dad's leviship for the weekend.
If we put the leviship in reverse, the miles will go backwards.
There's some dude who's like borrowing his mom's leviship, which is essentially a station wagon. It's got wood panels.
Guys, this was a lot of fun, and holy shit, I can't believe everything worked. Like, everything worked. And there was there was one weird disconnect issue at the very beginning. There were some audio things that we had to fine tune, but everything worked. And I'm really amazed that that something didn't go horrifically wrong. So I hope that everyone who watched really enjoyed the new format, the new overlay, being able to see the maps and the minis and stuff. It's a lot of fun, and I think it elevates things just a little bit and makes it a little bit more enjoyable to watch as a viewer. So
Totally agree.
And it's fun for me to be able to see all the guys at once and not just like bloop, little faces that then get big. So yeah, I really enjoyed using it. I hope you guys did too. And yeah, we'll go do some outros here, and then we'll call it a night because it's getting late on East Coast time, baby. So let's do the opposite order. We'll go ahead and start with Tim and work our way leftwards, or excuse me, work our way port. Yeah, port. No, starboard. Yes.
Port is left. Port is left. Starboard's right.
Starting on starboard, going port, getting in the prow and the aft section.
I think that'll be my outro.
Yeah.
I'm Tim. I'm half of Tabletop Terrors, and I'm lucky to be a quarter of Absolute Tabletop. And I am just really, really glad that we got to finally play some Provokers, and I'm excited to play this next session. And again, I wanted to give a shout out again to Storyforge. There's some brilliant artists, some of the best RPG artists that I've seen, and they're putting out those really cool things on Drip, which is the Kickstarter version of Patreon, essentially. And so check out Storyforge because they're really awesome, and we hope to maybe do some work with them in the future. So thank you all for watching, and I will throw it over to Nate.
All right. So thank you, Tim.
You got it.
This is too much fun. The D&D bunch. The D&D bunch. Okay. So anyway, I'm Nate. And
I'm Alice.
I run the channel WASD20. And it's been great resuming playing Sander Denara. You guys are cracking me up. And yeah. Thank you, Matt, for the new overlay stuff. I agree. It's really nice to be able to see each other, and I don't know, poke at each other, and yeah.
The map.
Mike.
You're muted, Mike. We only see your miming
I
actions.
know. Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to figure out the whole, it's this way, right? No, it's this way, but then it's this way because it's in a mirror universe, and I'm trying to look at this, but I'm also trying to look at the camera. Anyway.
Next time, tape some index cards to your monitor, and you'll be good.
Yes,
Nate.
Yes. No.
Parker.
Anyway, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am having such an awesome time. Such a great game. My God, Aeronaut is such a beautiful campaign world that will totally be featured in the next WotC something or other. Now that Matt's uber powerful. I think, what is he now? COO, Chief Operations Officer of Wizards, wasn't it? Or was it like Chief Artistic Land Super Junior Executive?
I'm toilet guy. I clean the toilets at the Wizards office. So
Sanitation.
Nice.
Oh, that's what he.
Sanitation.
Nice. Sanitation.
That's what he does. Sanitation.
Yeah.
This is not
That's
how
what
I
he
thought this
does,
day was gonna go.
That's what he does at AbTab, so that works out really well. He's got a
Yeah.
lot of experience.
I mean, think about it. I'm the captain of a ship and I'm cleaning it. I mean, that's
See?
you're yeah. So
Matt does quite the opposite to toilets.
you're the poop deck captain. That's nothing wrong with that. But
Actually,
anyway,
as an editor, it's not really all that different from being a sanitation guy. It's
The
kind of
king
the
shits
same
and
thing.
the hand wipes.
we'd have to find so yeah, again, I'm having a blast playing. It's a ton of fun. I'm so happy to be figuring out Edric as we play. I think it's a really cool experience to not only view the outer, the grand outer story, which is beautifully run by Matt as per, but also the inner story that I'm trying to figure out with my characters. So it's a lot of fun and it's really cool. And now I'm going to pass it to Barker. I bet you I'm going to totally screw this up. Wait.
Now, Mike, you got to flex more. I want to see those muscles. Which way to the beach? Here, I'll give you some.
No, it's just it's okay. It's just all like, yeah, it's all right at this point. Just do your outro.
We have become one. Okay, all right. My name is Barker, and this is an outro. I played Holly Rast today, and this was one of my favorite sessions. This was awesome. Arcane Archer is dope. We're gonna have a lot of fun playing with that and playing around with the Bleak, I imagine. And I feel like this campaign truly can go anywhere. It feels like a big sandbox of Aeronoth, and it's only been like 2 to 3 years since I've wanted this, so that's great. So let's finally get it started, and I already can't wait for the next session.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And I'm going to hit my microphone here really quick and then say that the name of this session is, it means multiple things. It's New Horizons for the Provokers, but it's also New Horizons for us. The whole of Aeronoth is open to us. We got a leviship. We can go anywhere we want and do anything we want. But we also got to keep in mind that we're being hunted by a crazy dragon goddess. So there's always that to bear in mind. So I'm really excited for where this campaign is going to go. And just like Barker said, I can't wait for the next session. So thank you, everyone, again, for stopping by, for listening in, for watching us play. Just watching us, nerdy guys play some D&D. It's great to have you with us. So take care, everyone. Happy gaming all. And as always, may your pizzas be hot and ready. Now I'm going to attempt to stop the stream, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. So here we go. I'm going to try this. Let's see if this works. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.